you getting yourself ready for our show?
Guys, Jigs and Bigs, it's another Tuesday here. We've got an amazing show for you guys coming up this week here. We do have a guest this week. We've got a very excited young man about who's just got the fishing bug. We're going to talk to Vinny, and we'll explain exactly in segment 1 how this all came to be. But we got Vinny with us, a 12-year-old that has a passion for fishing that I think rivals some folks even my age. We have an amazing discussion this week about the seasons in fishing. You know, fall is coming up. It's not officially here. We're going to take a little bit of a deep dive in there. Who the fuck is Joe Brown? Had one hell of a week. Remember the last couple episodes he was talking about how he was kind of wrestling with this tournament coming up? Well, it happened. It went down. And we're proud of our old boy. We really are. This is pretty good. We'll find out exactly how it played out, any kind of bullshittery that was going on with it. Of course, all that kind of stuff. This week, we're also going to take a look at our number 4 spots for our favorite baits to throw. Things that we've been throwing recently. We've made a list, and now we're going to share that number 4 spot. We got all kinds of great stuff coming up for you guys. More Jigs and Bigs action. You're not going to want to miss it, but we got a great show coming up right after this, folks. I can already see it. We got a lot of good stuff here. The jig heads are in the comments right now. We got Patrick Martin says good morning. Dark Horse Tackle Boys wishing us a happy Labor Day. We got Zach Marston in the house says good morning, gentlemen. Biggest Nickus is joining us. Dark Horse hits us with a burning question. They ask, has Joe Brown received his creek box yet? The answer is no. Anytime that I've been, actually this week I really should have just made an effort to go and fish out in Central Mass, because you were off all week this week, right, Joe?
I was.
You're off this week? That was
I was
a missed opportunity.
It's just as much my fault because I was out your way a lot.
Really?
With pre-fishing and the turn.
Oh,
no,
that's
actually,
true.
no, I was north of you. But yeah. So hey, by the time I get it, it'll be a vintage Dark Horse tackle.
Well, and the nice thing is that, you know, you'll have some of these baits, you'll be able to give them an interesting test on the ice. You know, that wobble flopper, that plop style bait especially, I think is going to perform really well. That'll be amazing. No, I'm a degenerate fuck, but I've been working on all kinds of good shit, guys. We have, it's been a pretty solid week right now. For those that are unaware, September has started, and with that, as did the multi-species scavenger hunt series that we've been doing. There's a September Jigs and Bigs, and then we're going to do an October one here where you might see some new rules get played with a little bit here. But this is pretty old school right now. This is what we've been doing, and we've got a handful of anglers that have been signing in. Or joining, I should say, you know, after the start of the month, which is fine. You guys have until what is it, the 15th?
They have till the 8th to register.
The 8th to register.
We're almost up to 24.
Oh wow! So more have signed on than I realized. That's awesome. You guys have been killing it. That's great. I had one hell of a week. It was a little bit of everything. Yeah, we are. We're almost at 24. Holy shit! 53 fish already. Good for you guys. Good for you guys. I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to it. I was talking with Mike Hansen, Vinny Outdoors, and he has a new. I don't know if I want to say it's a new venture or anything, but he is going to be on the show soon to talk about this, and it should be kind of interesting. There we go. Dark Horse Tackle says, I think Bobby stole your Giltech jigs. That's one thing. I did not steal his Giltech jigs. I went out and I bought 20 Giltech jigs, and they've been putting in work. In fact, I had to retire one. We'll explain that when we go over our weeks. Does anybody want to start with their weeks, or should I?
Go for it, man. Hit it hard.
I'll fucking hit it hard. So Monday and Tuesday were useless. I did nothing fishing related aside from I did put some podcast related stuff those days. Again, a lot of that day kind of went into tying up some loose ends for some of the prizes for the giveaways at the live events. Spoke to some really, really great companies and companies that we actually want to have on the show as well. It's gonna be a good thing. So that was Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday, I did get out on the water. I went out on Wednesday, and I think Wednesday I went to Congamon Junior. Yeah, I went to Congamon Junior on Wednesday, and it was Nibblerama. I went out a little bit later in the afternoon. Wednesday was my youngest daughter's first day back at school, so I knew I had to pick her up. She got a new bus stop, the whole 9 yards. So I went over to Congamon Junior, and I went over basically just looking to catch them, get out one cent in the kayak. Just, I guess you would say fun fishing, though I hate using that term because every time I'm fishing, it's fun. You know what I mean? It's always fun. So I went out, and it was, when I say Nibblerama, I am not kidding. I was able to put on a pattern pretty quickly. I caught one fish on a finesse swim bait. Everything else was on a finesse jig. The majority of these fish were right along weed edges and pretty shallow. And it was a pretty decent day. I can't complain about it, but it was pretty fun. We had finesse jig magic. Thursday, I went back out. And again, I was just like, I'm just looking to catch a biggin. And spoiler alert, this week,
I did.
But we'll get there. I was just looking to catch some quality is what I was really looking for. And honestly, we had pretty windy conditions on Wednesday, and I was excited about that because I was looking to try to get bit on something a little bit more active. See if I can get them moving, something like that. Well, Thursday, Nash in the Wind was pretty fruitless, actually. It was more, I put it in my notes here, more jig nibblers. More nib jigglers was more like it, to be perfectly honest. I went up and down every single bank of this pond right here, and I got so many ridiculous bites. But I noticed, a lot of these fish were shaking off. In fact, the biggest one of the day I had caught right up against the bank, and it was like this little open spot between two small weed beds. And I saw this fish start reeling in, and he, goes into the weeds, and, that little bit of friction just pops right out. Fish is gone. I was like, you know what? I'm going to make a judgment call here. I'm going to look at the numbers and figure it out. That one jig, that one finesse jig, since I've been throwing it, since I tied it on, has caught me something like 48 fish. Ridiculous. So I was checking out the hook. In fact, there was a spot where I had gotten it hung up, and I had to, freeing it up, bent out the hook just a little bit. So I put it back. I'm like, I'm going to take this as a sign. We're going to cut this off and tie another one on. And I retired that jig. It is now hanging from a little piece of fluorocarbon on my rearview mirror as a reminder of all of the fish I managed to catch on this one tiny finesse jig. So it was a good thing. But I caught a couple. I got a couple of them, stuck a couple of them. But again, all nibblers, all just super, super shallow. Friday was an interesting one, because Friday was the first day of September. So a new way of looking at things. I got out relatively early, went out kind of with the same strategy that I had last time we had done a scavenger hunt. I wanted to kind of start checking off some of those smaller species. So I could have gone out with one rod. I had gone out and thrown this one presentation, and I caught probably 20 bluegill, all bluegill, unfortunately. The first one that I caught that would beat the minimum, as far as length requirement, measured that sucker and count. I caught bigger ones. I could have upsized, but again, I'm not even worried about that right now. I was just kind of hoping I could check off a couple of species there, maybe a crappie, maybe a yellow perch, but everything I caught over there was bluegill or some type of sunfish. Just absolutely ridiculous. I did have one tiny bass, take a bite and then shake off of the presentation I was throwing over there. But it was a pretty decent day. Got off the water, had to, now I'm getting back into that routine of fishing until a certain point and then getting off the water so that I can do the taxiing the kid from the bus stop back home and all this other stuff. So that was Friday. I had gone and that's right, Sean, because you played trivia Friday night.
I did.
Yeah, that's right. We went.
Poorly.
I went over and did trivia on my regular Friday night routine, which is we're getting in this weird season now where I'm not going to have trivia next Friday. I have an event going, and then the following week we're in the throes of the Big E. So I think we're going to try it there and see what happens, and who knows? It'll be interesting. But I had a plan to get out on Saturday. Now I knew. Was it Friday or it might have been even Thursday? I had gotten a text from some friends of ours that last minute invite to a cookout at their house. And I'm like, yeah, this is something I want to go to. So instead of recording on Sunday evening, because that's when the cookout was, we made arrangements to make all this happen. So here I am right now. So Saturday, I wanted to go out, and I really kind of wanted to take the yak out and hit one of the spots where I've had really good success with a variety of species, rock bass, crappie, you name it. And it didn't work out that way because I had a number of things lined up. I had errands to run. I also had the interview to record with Vinny. So I'm like, I'm not going to miss that. So I talked to my buddy Paul, and I said, listen, man, what do you think about just doing a bank sesh? Just for the sake of putting another day in and getting some fishing done. He's like, yeah, man, we can do that. And I said, well, look, can you do me a favor? I go, can you take your catch carbonite board with you when we meet up? I said, just in case I manage to catch something that I need or something of quality, my board is already tethered to my kayak. And I'm like, yours is nice and light. I'll carry it, but it's nice and light, no big deal. He's like, yeah, absolutely. He's like, I think you're actually the only person that's ever put fish on that anyway. So yeah, we'll take it. I said, perfect. So we meet up at this spot that we have fished at ever since we started fishing for bass with artificial lures together regularly. It's a local college campus. Everybody around here fishes this place, and it is heavily, heavily pressured. But I've got some experiences with really big fish there. And they don't bite often. I might lay into one a year, But there are some decent-sized fish in there. And we go out to this one spot. And Paul is a topwater guy. He wants to throw topwater. He enjoys it. That's what it's all about. He goes out and he starts throwing a whopper plopper. Some type of like a white, almost like a sexy shad, actually. Like a little bit of blue on there and definitely some chartreuse, but primarily a white body. And he catches two, and I was like, immediately I've got my interest, they're piqued. Now, I am throwing that same small bait fish presentation looking to pick up crappie, fall fish. I've caught really big fall fish over here. Fall fish that would make the 8-inch minimum. All these other species, and that's what I'm targeting. That's what I'm looking for. And it is
not going well, people.
Like little taps. They're not really eating, they're not really taking the bait at all. So I say to Paul, I go, I hate to say it, man, but I'm seeing two fish, and then he catches his third as I'm saying this. I'm like, maybe this is a pattern. Let's see what happens. So I had actually that plopper style bait from Dock Masters, and that's from Dark Horse Tackle. And I said, I'm going to give it a go. I fan casted the entire area we were fishing. I didn't have so much as even a blow up, like a missed blow up, nothing. I'm like, maybe he's just lucky. Who the hell knows? So I go and I switch a presentation, and I'm getting like a tap on like a finesse swim bait, but they're not committing to it. And I throw a finesse jig, and they're not committing to that either. And I'm like, I threw a swim jig, and I had changed out the style of swim jig that I typically use that has a larger hook, like a 5/0 hook, to a more of a conventional size swim jig. But I use the same paddle tail, and I will tell you this much: it's making me consider that if I'm going to use those big paddle tails, I'm going to use that larger size hook, because first cast, I saw this fish bite the paddle tail, never had the hook, so I wasn't able to stick him at all. So I'm like, I wonder what the hell's going on. And I was just like, it's slow, but kind of moving. So I'm like, I'm gonna throw a wacky, just see what happens. And made a couple of casts, no big. My third or fourth cast, I start talking to Paul, right? We're just having a conversation. Everything's great. And I see my lines start slowly moving. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. I felt nothing. Now, when I'm fishing most any kind of bait with a bait caster, by default, I have my index finger that goes right under where the line comes out with that wormhole. And I'm basically sitting there with my finger on the line so I can hopefully detect anything. Didn't detect a thing. I reeled down, and I caught a 19 out of this little college pond, and this fish just starts, caught him right up next to the dam where we were. He was really, really deep, and I'm willing to bet that a tap on that finesse jig that I might have had or something was what it was, but dead sticking, that wacky, and just letting it, float or let it shimmy all the way down to the bottom, and he just picked it up and ran with it. It was definitely a good fish, and at the time, it was the lunker for the largemouth category, which I'm sure is going to be outdone. And I almost debated throwing it in my any 5. I really did. I was like, because I know this is going to get beat. But at the same time, since we started September, this is my first largemouth, so I said, by default, we'll throw it in there. So I have 2 entries as we go in, but what a world of difference. Like a 7-inch bluegill and a 19-inch largemouth. And then today my plan is I kind of wanted to head out your way, Joe. And my plan was to stay away from any ponds or lakes because of the tomfoolery with all of the lake lights and such. So I was thinking about hitting up a couple of like river spots where I can drop in where I'm not going to have to deal with, I might deal with some other kayaks or something, but I'm not necessarily going to have to deal with any of the, jet skis or anything like that.
I got a great river spot for you if you end up doing that.
Yeah, I very well may. It all kind of depends. I told
people been catching big bass in this spot.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, you know me. I'm all about it, and I'm all about trying to get bit in a big way. So,
yep, I got 2 actually that are kind of on the same, connected to the same water source, but they're only like 2 miles from each other.
Huh? That's perfect. So, I mean, my day was, my week was pretty good. I've been having a blast with it. We're only a few days in with this scavenger hunt tournament. So if you guys want to get involved with it, this is a great opportunity to do so. A lot of folks they think that they can just join, especially that first week or so. Yeah, you can just join. You can just join. You catch something that's decent. You've got all your stuff. Cool, you could join, but then you got to worry about your identifier and all that. Just join now, And at the conclusion of the month, we have a great giveaway of a bunch of prizes. We raffle off these prizes to folks that aren't in the money. So you might as well go for it. You never know. You could win some really, really, really great stuff. So that's my week in a nutshell. You guys, let's talk about your weeks.
Joe, you go first. I'll top everything off here. I got some fun stuff.
All right. So for me, I had my... you guys know I talked about I had my 2-day championship for Division 36 ABA. I was up at Barton Cove. It's basically a Connecticut River going from Gill all the way up to New Hampshire. I had struggled pre-fishing. I told you guys that. So I was kind of like, fuck, like I got to pull something together here. So first day, we drop in, we get ready. It's foggy as hell. Wicked foggy.
Yeah.
Sketchy fog. And, but luckily I'd saved my tracks from all my runs, and I had pulled boat number 1. So I was launching first.
Oh, that's great.
So I'm like, well, I can't waste this. So I did some sketchy shit and still hit the throttle a bit, and in the fog, just hoping I don't hit, a floating log coming down from north.
Yeah, or a moose walking out into the river.
Yeah, seriously. So I sent it. I started off in a spot. It was basically a point coming off an island. I stopped there. I see some fish suspended. I could tell they weren't big, but I could tell that they were smallies. So I actually started with a spy bait. So that's something I hadn't really thrown before, but I had reached out to a couple people, and they're like, if the farther north you go on the Connecticut, like they love the spy baits. So I ended up catching both those fish with the spy bait that I saw suspended. One was a short. The other one was maybe, 13 inches, but he was fat. He came in at he's about 14 inches, came in at about a pound. Stuck him in the live well. kept fishing that area, and I wasn't getting anything. So one thing I did a lot of research with this week was trying to figure out how to see fish on the live scope that are like belly to the bottom, like how to distinguish them. And I had figured it out, and I realized that there was a ton of fish sitting with their bellies right to the bottom. So then I switched over to something I hadn't really done in a while, and that was just fishing a straight jig. I don't know why I had gotten away from this in the last year, because I was using a Beast Coast baby dozer in Toxic Bug, 5/8 ounce, to kind of counter that, because the current was strong. So I do that, and next thing you know, I get another 3, like right off the rip. They're sitting belly to the bottom, trying to get out of that current. Still kind of short. I wasn't that far north yet. So I'm like, okay. So they're definitely hitting this. And I worked in between the shoreline, that island. And I didn't get much else after that. So I decided from there I was going all the way north. So I packed up. I headed north. I mean, I was well into New Hampshire. So I got up there. I found another island point. So there's basically like 3 decent sized islands on the way up. Yep. I hit all 3. The second, in between the island and the shore, I'd caught another 3. So now I have a full live well. I have 5. So now I'm just upgrading. They weren't very big.
Yeah.
Maybe 1.5 pounds, all of them. I was catching a ton at that size. So now because they're so close, I had to get my cull beam out, trying to figure out, which one's bigger, fucking putting them on there and balance them on. But it was I was catching a lot of fish, but just not a lot of quality.
Yeah.
So I burned up that area for quite a couple hours. I didn't go. You could go about another mile or 2 up, and I saw a bunch of boats go up there, so I didn't do it. Because I knew it's a little narrow, and I knew they were just all going to be piled in there, just on top of each other.
Yeah. So
I decided to go a little bit south, and I started hitting. I would see rock ledges coming down, and I would work those rock ledges going from like 5 to 12 feet or to 20 feet or whatever. And I started to pick up a little bit better quality off of those. I got a couple more doing that. And that was pretty much my first day. So I go in, I weigh in. At the end of the first day, I was sitting in 10th. And I think there was like 23 boats or something.
That's not
so
bad.
Middle of the field.
Yeah.
So I'm like, a couple of the guys stayed in Barton's. One guy got a 19-pound bag out of there. It was insane. But, he fishes that place all the time, and he has the patience to just sit there and flip weeds for 8 hours. I do not have that patience. I don't have that. That's not really my technique. So I finished that off. I finished day 1. So I'm just trying to think of, I head back home. It's like an hour and a half from my house. Should have stayed up there. I didn't. Sorry, did that come over?
Oh, sorry. Don't worry about it.
Calling my phone.
Something came all over our faces.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Sorry, God. It's my friggin' 4-year-old trying to call me off her tablet.
Yeah.
She's at the beach.
It's not the 4-year-old. It's the fucking old man who doesn't put his phone on silent when he's recording.
It is on silent. It's coming through my MacBook, Sean.
Oh, yeah.
Does your MacBook have a silent?
I don't know.
Yeah, well.
It's not that easy to find.
So I better get that ready, because she's probably going to keep doing it. So anyway, day 1, I finish. I come home, recover, head back up there. Day 2. One thing I didn't know is I had picked boat 1. I didn't know it's kind of like a snake draft the second day. So now I'm the call boat.
Oh,
And I didn't realize that. I thought we
gotcha.
were repicking. So now I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
You know? So I do the call boat. I know exactly where I want to go. I wanted to get to where all those other guys went.
Yeah.
North, all the way up. So I do the call boat thing. A ton of boats stayed in the cove, like in Barton's. So I was like, okay, perfect. I get in there, I rip it. It takes me, I mean, I'm going full speed in my boat. I'm averaging about 63 to 65 miles an hour, and it's still taking me about 25 minutes to get up there.
Oh, yeah.
Full rip, you know, full fucking more than a quarter tank of gas to get up there. But so I get up there, I'm sitting on a point. They were dropping water out, quite a bit of water out of the dam. It was like 12,000 cubic feet a second or whatever, however they do it. So the current was ripping, but I'd find a spot to where kind of on that last island point to where the currents were coming together, and it was like churning up some shit. And I was like, well, let me give this a shot. Throw in there, and I just start. I look in the live scope, and I look on the bottom. They're just piled up on the bottom, bellied up. So it was like fish in a barrel.
Yeah,
no pun intended.
That's what you want.
And I was just, there was a couple other boats there, but with that baby dozer, I was just killing it. And the crazy part is like I had to get used to it because the current was so strong. You couldn't tell right off the rip that there's a fish on it because of that current.
Yeah.
So I had to basically watch my line the entire time. When I see that line like completely go slack, like real slack, is like, okay, there might be something on there. You reel up, and like just to the point where you might feel something, and then you set the hook.
Gotta
so that took a little getting. I figured that out the first day.
Yep.
So I was able to do that, and I just started hitting some real quality fish. 2.5 pounders. And I probably caught, probably over 30 fish throughout the day yesterday.
That's
all small,
awesome.
all smallies. And I moved around a little bit. I pulled, I was culling probably at like 9:30 yesterday.
Yeah.
Like I had already had 5 fish in the well. So I picked I stayed there till probably about 11 o'clock, 11:30. And I was like, all right, let this cool down, because I know they're all moving down from the dam or whatever. So I was like, there's a good chance that spot's going to fill back up. So I let that cool off for a couple hours. I moved down to just hit some more rocky points, caught some more fish, just nothing to cull out. But this is kind of a crazy story that happened to me. So I'm looking at my live scope at a rock ledge, and I'm just hanging my bait over the side as I'm looking at it. Mm-hmm. And my bait was probably maybe 6 inches in the water. And something catches the corner of my eye, and I look over, and there's probably about a 28, 30-inch pike comes up, grabs my friggin' jig, slices the fluoro just like nothing, and just goes right back into the depths. It scared the shit out of me. Like, it's one of those stories, like, people aren't going to believe it unless they see it. But it was gnarly, and it was my last jig in that color, so I was pissed about that. Fuck. But but luckily, so I let that spot cool off. I saw the 2 or 3 boats that were up there. I saw them start going south. They passed me. They went south, so I automatically went right back up there. So there I ended up catching a couple more fish to cull out. I caught a bunch more in that churned up shit.
Yep.
All belly all sitting on the bottom. I caught probably another, 10 fish, culled out probably 3 or 4. Really, I was really cutting it close. I left there at about 2:30. I packed up, and so now I have all the wreck boats, the Labor Day wreck boats that are in the river, like farther down south. And I have 25 minutes to get all the way to the boat ramp. So from, it's like 25 nautical miles or something like that. So I can't believe I can't believe the boat held up some of the waves. I mean, Bobby, it was worse than that trip we had on Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, that bad, huh?
Oh yeah, just because I had like I was cutting it close, like I just had to grip it and rip it.
I imagine, Joe, that your run back with 25 minutes left, that this is probably what it was like. Right?
That's exactly what it was like. It was funny. Actually, Josh, the kid who won Angler of the Year this year, it was confirmed yesterday. He runs a Blazer, and him and I are just like, he was in that area with me, so we kind of both looked at each other like, oh shit, we gotta go.
Yeah.
So we're both just running side by side the whole way. But you have your wreck boats that are like weaving in and out with their kids in the back, like taking up the whole river. You know what I mean?
You're like, are you serious?
Yeah, so I made it by about literally 3 minutes. I did make it all the way back. I ended up weighed in. I ended up carrying up 3 spots, so I ended up for the 2-day. I ended up finished 7th overall.
It's not bad, man.
Cool thing about it is I now qualify for the national championship, which is down in South Carolina, Lake Hartwell next month.
Oh, that's
so I
awesome.
I got to figure out the logistics in that, try to get down there. Cause it's a big pot. It's like 50 grand to the winner and you get a boat and a truck.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Fucking A. That's awesome, dude.
So yeah. So that was my weekend. I came home. I probably racked out I realized, that I'm getting older and I'm sore as shit this morning, just from freaking fighting waves and current all day yesterday, but, in the last 2 days, but, yeah, obviously dealt with some fuckery on the boat ramp.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, which you're always going to get on a holiday weekend. But yeah, that was my weekend in a nutshell.
Not too shabby, dude. I mean, 7th place on coming in total in a 2-day stretch, 7th place out of a pool of about 20 folks. And you finished there, and the weeks going into it pre-fishing, you were like, what the fuck? And what's crazy is, actually, go back a week, and I was like, yeah, he's got that idea of just using the cove and having that in his back pocket. I figured you were going to frogfish the entire 2 days and just pick up what you could there. But you stuck to it. You got all bronze fish, man. That is freaking awesome. And you did well,
Yeah.
That's
so,
huge.
And these are against some of the best sticks, in the area, So I was pretty happy about that.
Was Chicopee Chet over there?
What's that?
Was Chicopee Chet over there?
No. But
did you see a pantsless man?
No.
He wasn't there.
Right. No. But you see all the lines on the lake or on the river. But no, those guys that stuck in the cove yesterday had a real tough time. They didn't really catch much.
Yeah.
The guys that decided to, and some of these guys, they're not familiar with the river. They're a little bit more. Maybe I should be more nervous, but the way I am, I'm just like, man, just fucking send it. If
that's
I rip
all you
my
can
lower
do.
end off, that's what insurance is for.
There you go.
So I made that. It was risk versus reward, and I was rewarded for it and had a good time. So hopefully down to South Carolina next month.
I love it. I love it, man. That'll be awesome, dude. That'll be freaking amazing.
Yeah. Yep.
And next month, it's not going to be oppressive down there as far as the.
No,
and you're also not going to have
perfect.
Yeah, it's going to be a much better situation. South Carolina's freaking awesome, dude. Sweet. Yep. Sean, let's dive into your week. Let's take a leap. I forgot actually on my week. I have 2 restaurants I want to talk about. Because there was Fill My Face Effery that happened a couple of times here this week.
Hit it. Where'd you go?
Well, so I had Saturday after I had caught this giant. The bite kind of slowed where we were at, and Paul and I looked at each other and we're like, should we go grab breakfast? So we went to Rusty's in Holyoke. A spot I go to all the time. I take the wife and kids there. I'm there pretty routinely, and what a great breakfast. We both had biscuits and gravy with a couple of eggs, And I told him, I was like, you got to get a side of a house-made corned beef hash. It is amazing. And it was, absolutely. The other one is not an eatery that I even got to enjoy, unfortunately. Saturday afternoon, I had some running around to do. I had to go to my niece's birthday party. Happy birthday, Reese. And I had to go, Reese, the niece. I had to go up to my sister's place. She had a huge party for Reese, so I popped in there for a little while. Came back. Holly and Chloe was working all day, but Holly and Delaney had a nail appointment, so they weren't coming with me to the party. I came back, and my wife and I. So there's actually 3 restaurants. There's a restaurant locally that is closing. And they're not closing because they can't make any money or anything. They're closing because they can't get anybody to work. And the staff that they do have is absolutely worn out. And this is a restaurant. My wife and I, there's a restaurant. I've actually a couple of our listeners, Gravy, Paul, and somebody else. I forget another one of our listeners. We've gone out for lunch there before. It's called Riff's Joint. It's in East Hampton. It's a great spot. They do wings, pizzas, burgers, burritos, a little bit of everything, but they do everything very well. And inside, there's a small bar called the Hideaway Lounge.
Which sounds like Swallow Hollow, but it's not.
So, my wife and I would go and you guys have heard on the show when I talk about grabbing appetizers and drinks with my wife. That's where we go. We'll get, they have really good drink specials, really interesting cocktails. We'll try a couple of those. We'll share some appetizers. And we usually bring dinner home for the kids. This place makes money hand over fist. And they're in the catering game, too. So, they're doing just fine. They are closing because, like I said, they can't get anybody in there. So my wife and I were initially on Saturday afternoon after the birthday party. We were going to go there. But in the weeks coming, I guess they've just been closing. They're like, oh, we're out of food, we're closed, done. Or we're burnt out. We're just closing for the day. So they're officially closed. My wife is like, look, if it's going to be something like that, she's like, we've gone there enough. They've made plenty of money off of us before. She's like, I don't want to go if it's going to be a shit show. So we opted to go for a ride. And I said, pick a direction, west or north. She picked north. So we went up into Vermont. And neither one of us were really very hungry. You know what I mean? I figured we would just find something on the way. Well, we went past this barbecue spot last fall that we had stopped at. And come to find out, it's closed permanently. It's for sale. So if you've got $500,000 and you want to open a barbecue spot in Brattleboro, Vermont, go for it. Because the location's awesome. It's right on the river. But they decided not to open this season.
That place I love that place. Is it the place with the deck? It has the bar on the deck and it overlooks right in the river and the bridge is right there.
Exactly. That's the spot.
That sucks. I loved that place.
It was fantastic. It was some of the best brisket I've ever had. And I've had some fucking brisket.
That's a bummer.
It really is. Yeah, I guess the owner's in his 70s and he was looking to sell it to somebody who wanted to take it over, and he would kind of work alongside them to get it up to speed. But I guess it didn't sell, and he's just like, you know what? He's like, let's not even open this season, which is it's tough. So I said to my wife, I go, I'm kind of interested in hitting that spot. We go by and she does a little bit of research because that's what she's good at. I'm like, oh, I wonder what that is. She's like, I'm on the internets. Let's get to it. And she figured it out. She's like, yeah. She's like, it's up for sale, but they're not opened. But we went north a little bit further. We saw a sign that caught my eye. It was a sign for
Tasty Butts Barbecue.
Now your boy fucking loves Tasty Butts. You know what I mean? And that type of an establishment opens itself to all kinds of innuendo, which I just can't help myself. So the jokes were flying everywhere. We stayed on the same exact road for about 25 minutes. Didn't see another sign. And I was like, maybe that sign was in memoriam. Maybe it was open and it was like, hey, you remember?
Do you remember chowing down on Tasty Butts? Do you remember what it was like to engorge yourself on tasty fucking butts?
Well, as soon as this conversation happens, we see another sign. 15 minutes down the road, it says, 15 minutes ahead, Tasty Butts. I'm like, okay, we'll go for it. We found Tasty Butts. Tasty Butts were discovered.
Tasty Butts was fucking closed.
Tasty Butts. I was highly disappointed. There were no Tasty Butts to be had. None.
No Tasty Butts were devoured.
On Saturday night, not at all. Not at all.
No Tasty Butts touched your tongue.
It's true.
Shame.
Yeah. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Gross. So gross. Gross. Get some mileage off them tasty butt jokes.
You gotta love those tasty butt jokes. And they just, I couldn't believe it. It was one of those things, we looked up their hours and they open at noon, like every day. But on their Facebook page, they're like, yeah, we just decided to open at 4. And they're like, we're open till 7. We went by at 6:30 and there wasn't a light on. So I was just like, they powered down the old butts. God damn it. So that's my thank you for listening into
Bobby's Restaurant Reviews and Cripes. Enjoy your weekend.
Oh God.
What was that? The first of 2 places? Where was the other?
That's no. The first one was Rusty's. And then
Gotcha.
yeah, so actually you got 3. You got 3 out of me. The last one being Tasty Butts.
The Tasty Butts, the tastiest of all butts. I will jump right into my week.
Yep.
I had 3 fishing outings this week, and a special ride to the eastern side of the state to pick up
Yes.
another item for the collection at this point.
They're like Beanie Babies for you.
I know. Let me start with the first day of September. September 1st, 2023. I went up to Shears, and there is a lake that I'm now becoming very, very familiar with that I have not had a lot of success with in the past. And I'm starting to love it and feel that as I'm getting to know it, I'm starting to feel that it's an out-of-place Minnesota lake.
Yeah.
So this place has a population of pike, and that'll probably, that can narrow down the field. I'm not going to say the name of the lake, but I'm starting to love it because it has pike, largemouth, and smallmouth, and the largemouth and smallmouth behave like there's pike in there.
Yeah.
Which is just a Minnesota lake. Being nestled up in the mountains, it's going to start cooling off real quick here. But I went up there, and to plant the seed, I have at least 2 FTGs come out of this one trip. I got out there for a couple hours, and I did all right. Now, it being the first of the month, I'm probably going to blow a couple minds here. Some people are familiar with it because they're involved. I did jump into this month's Jigs and Bigs tournament.
Yep.
Back on the water. I'm going to get out as much as possible. Why not? And so far, it's paid off, and I'll get into that later. We get a little tourney time today. The drums are back. Oh, wait. Are we doing the drums? We axed the drums.
We did axe the drums, yeah.
We'll do it at the end of segment 1 here. So there I was. The mountains. Now, I seem to have an issue with this place. It's happened twice now. As I always say, 1 fish is a fish, 2 is a pattern.
Oh, for sure.
I've now established a pattern of leaving my Boondocks wheels on the dock when I go fishing. I did it when you and I went up there.
Yeah.
I fucking did it again the other day. So I am so excited to get on the water, and such a hippie with, thinned out herd of brain cells over the past few months, that I just leave expensive things on the dock for anybody to take. And luckily, nobody has taken them twice in a row.
That's a good sign.
So that was stupid. Went out, got a hold of a few pike, got a hold of a nice smallmouth, lost another nice smallmouth, but what can you do? And had to go pick up my kids from school. So I'll be trying to get out, pick up my kids from soccer practice. I'll be trying to get out as much as possible throughout the weeks for little sends here and there between drop off and pickup. But I have made an effort over the past week that has been, slowly paying off. I'm getting myself back into shape. So when I have to go pick up my kids at soccer practice, if I'm lucky enough that they've gotten a ride there, sometimes they have a ride, sometimes they don't. With the school has a small bus that can get them to and from practices. If they're able to get a ride there, I only have to show up for pickup, but sometimes I have to bring them. So I've been taking advantage of this 2-hour practice and just walking. Put on my in my earbuds and just walk. for 2 hours. So I've been getting like 4 to 5 miles in for 2 hours. I'm not going at a great pace because obviously everything below my hips is shot. But I've been doing that. And then now I'll be trying to make sure that when they're at school, if I can get out, and just pedal in the kayak for a couple hours.
Yep.
That's another way to lose weight. I'm really trying to make myself a little healthy, and I know a little healthier. And I know that the less weight I have on my knees and on my ankles and everything else that's all fucked up, the better. So hopefully I can keep going in that direction. But let me come back around to fishing. So I went out, got my pike, got my smallmouth, turned them into Jigs and Bigs. And then on the way out, I started doing a little drop shotting and got a good sized bluegill. So I got 3 species on the board right then and there. Very happy with myself. The next day I had a little plan. I was waking up very early, and fishing a lake that I haven't fished in about 30 years. And you were actually recently at this lake. Big lake. I always thought there were smallmouth in there, but apparently not. But I do know for sure, and this was verified, the crawfish in this lake for Massachusetts reach like Louisiana edible size.
Yeah.
They're enormous. I know there's trout in there. It's a deep water lake. And I knew there was largemouth. But again, I thought there was smallmouth, and neither myself or my partner for the day, Loaded Potato, neither of us caught any smallmouth. So we went out. We got up we got up in the dark. I got out to that launch. We were both at the launch by 5 a.m., which now is dark. Welcome to fall.
Yep.
And immediately upon getting on the water, my potato-ish friend caught two 16-inch largemouth off his now infamous whopper plopper, which has developed a catchphrase of its own, which is simply, "You and that fucking whopper plopper out of my mouth." Now I just say it constantly. You and that fucking whopper plopper. You and that fucking whopper plopper, which caused me to switch to that small prop bait that we got in our Dark Horse tackle boxes.
From Doc Master's Baits, yeah.
The Doc Master, I had a black and blue one, and I whipped that out there, and I caught a 14.5, which went into my cooler for later use on pizzas.
All right.
We make it a pizza. The pizza is good. Is a never shit. And we continued up and down. We basically did a lap around the lake until the sun got very high in the sky. About noon, we kind of wrapped it.
Yep.
I would be remiss if I didn't tell this story, because as the day wore on and the bite became more and more finicky, the fish were more finicky, the whopper plopper just didn't land anymore. I think Andy ended up catching another one on it and then caught one on a plastic, I believe, of some sort. I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't log his catches. I log mine.
Log.
So from mid-morning on, he had a rough go of it. But I switched to a drop shot, and I had pretty regular success, but a lot of small fish. But I did have enough to fill a cooler. I had 4. We brought the cooler, brought ice. I had 4 bass that I kept for various pizzas. And tonight, fish Sammys, fried fish Sammys.
Fucking
faces. Yep. So that's how I'm rolling. We got to the final weed bed before, as we were getting ready to get out of the water by the ramp, and I hooked into what was my biggest fish of the day, and it was a bass. I saw it turn, and I had been throwing over his shoulder from back to front of the boat, and as the fish cut across the bow towards the trolling motor, I let him know, and I was making my first move to get towards the front of the boat so I could get this fish.
Yep.
And I said something like, "Watch the trolling motor," or coming across the motor, and he stepped on the trolling motor and it cut the line clean. Just whoa! I was like, "Oh shit!" And he said, "Man, I'm sorry." I said, "Dude, don't worry about it. I have done worse." And I will harken back to a story in Oklahoma, fishing with my main man, Mike Durham. Mike yelled, "Get the net" on a 3 or 4 pound fish. And I proceeded to take that net and give that fucking fish a concussion without getting it in the net and basically knocking it off the hook. To which Mike said a few words to me that I will never forget, nor will I repeat here because of the context.
Yeah.
We keep it clean here, folks.
Yeah. This is us keeping it clean.
Bitch.
So yeah, that happened, and that was our day. I did have a blast, and I did actually call him up earlier when we planned this trip, and I said, "I have something for you." And he said, what? And I said, well, it's kind of a little sweet gift. I said, I'm hoping you'll take me to the prom because I'm getting a little sweet gift here.
Wow. Took a turn.
I went to Michael's and I got a small shadow box, which was smart
Yep.
because I had 2 of the prototype paint jobs from eBay Lures that I had requested for them for a bluegill color that the Loaded Potato loves to throw. And the 2 prototypes were given to me because I found them at the eBay Lure Lab during our visit.
Yep.
And I held on to them, attached some adhesive Velcro to the back, and stuck them right to the old shadow box and said, "Will you be my prom date?"
Wow.
He said yes. So
Dance.
So I don't know if that, I don't know what the standing on that is. It was a nice gesture. I hope there's no, innuendo attached to that.
Fair. Yeah.
Fair, yeah, but we're good to go. So yeah, that was Saturday, and then yesterday, my day was split in 2. My day was split in 3, actually, a little sliver in between the 2. Woke up, asked the wife. I said, "Wifey, would you please go on a road trip with me?" She said, "Abso-fucking-lutely." So we went out. We got breakfast.
Nice.
At a local breakfast establishment in right near my house, and grabbed that quick. Got on the highway, drove out to the South Shore, so south of Boston area. I was alerted that there was a kayak dealer that had a yet another, or possibly the last one in New England, brand new native Propel, native Ultimate Propel, the FX13 in stock, sitting waiting on clearance. It's been there for years. It's a 2016 model, brand new, so it's been sitting there waiting for an owner.
Was it dusty?
It was actually, yeah. And I had a discussion with the wife and said, these things are not available. So as we talked about, I think we covered this on a show when I got the other one, right? That before we had, met up with Three Bells and started our relationship with them, I was planning on buying one of these, and it just never happened because Native, now under different ownership, had taken them off the market. They decided that these things were not to be sold anymore, which sucks because I'm a Native Ultimate guy. I always have been. And they finally took the step that I felt I wanted to go in and discontinue the models in 2019, I think. 2019. So those boats were made from 2016 to 2019. And I never got to use one. I looked at them and said, this has everything I want, and just never got my hands on them. Now I have 2. We went out there, we picked it up. And I am excited. I'm in the process of rigging one of them. The other one is going to stay bare bones for now. The new one is the used one. I am in process of attaching some minimal electronics to, meaning I'm not going to be putting live scope on it. I'm actually right now in the process of considering if live scope is the direction I want to be going in, because it just adds so much weight to kayaks. So if I'm going to be using my Native Ultimates a lot more than the NAR, maybe the NAR can keep the higher the forward facing sonar, and I don't have to worry about it for the other ones. But one of the thoughts that I did have was to pick up all of the components to the 9-inch screen that it's on the NAR, and then just take the screen and switch it back and forth as I needed, because that'll give me a lightweight Native Ultimate Propel with like you and I talked about yesterday, with clear view, with traditional sonar, and with side scan. So I can work some magic with that. But the whole purpose of this for me is, before our relationship with Three Bells started and this kayak was taken off the market, and they obviously, with it being off the market, they're not selling it. And we were, this is marketing. I'm not marketing something that our partner is not selling. Yeah, exactly. I went with the Slayer and I went with the NAR, and that's what my options were. as we know, I dropped off the Three Bells team, and I'm taking a step back, and I'm really kind of picking things up where I left off before really the pandemic.
Yeah.
And all of the things that changed with it. So I'm trying to get lighter, leaner, know my strengths, know my weaknesses. No, I'm not going to win everything. No, I'm not fishing fucking in-person tournaments probably ever again. But I want to go back to those onlines and just having fun. And there's a little bit on the line, but not a lot. So hence me being back in the Jigs and Bigs tournament. I feel comfortable enough doing that. And then trying gear-wise to get lighter and leaner. And, I was telling Nelson last night, I said, I want to run a gun again. I just want to take 5 minutes, boom, the kayaks in the truck, and I'm out. Yep. I want the longest time consumer during the loading or unloading phase to be putting my rods in the rod rack.
Exactly.
That's it.
Yep.
I want the boat to be lifted and gone, and that's it. And I think I'm getting in that direction. So,
yep.
So yeah, I have 2 native Ultimate Propel FX13s now, and they're going to be rigged and ready to rock. They are getting their first go this weekend in Maine. Nelson has a tournament I will not be participating in, but we are staying at a friend of ours from high school, Dave Barabani. Dave's a great guy. Actually, this is one thing we've been talking about for years that we've never done, Bobby. Dave and I edited our outdoor section of our yearbook from high school.
Yeah, you told me about that. I remember that.
I have that. I've just never, I don't know how we want to get that out to people to have a laugh at, me fucking 30 years ago.
Oh,
yeah.
I have a really good idea.
Okay, well, do you want to do it? Do you want to talk about it right now?
Yeah. So, it's funny. Last night at that little cookout that I had gone to, this great couple that we see every once in a while, Jim and Noelle. Noelle was talking about this thing that she watches on TikTok. This woman is a lawyer, and she reads just mind-blowing court transcriptions. And they're just the stupidest thing that people talk to. Or she'll read out the transcripts for somebody, a defendant who's on the phone with their girlfriend visiting, and then the other girlfriend showed up, and they're comparing notes, and it's ridiculous. I think we could do something similar, and maybe we do that at the 200th show.
Okay, we'll have a little fun with it. But yeah. So we're gonna go stay up with Dave. Now Nelson's gonna be fishing the tournament. I will be
jigglers.
We did. Oh God, yeah, that's on my list to do stuff. I got to go run out and get some jigglers. Dave and I are going to hang out, and he lives on a lake.
Yeah.
He has his vacation home is on a lake in Maine, and we're just going to fish that lake. I'm so excited. It's got smallmouth, largemouth, and I believe pike. So we're good to go.
Yeah.
I'm fine. Fuck
That's
this.
awesome.
I'm going to have a blast. We're going to eat some fish pizzas. We're going to have some jigglers. It's fucking game on.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited about this weekend. We're going to head up to Maine and have a little fun.
That's cool.
That being said, back to yesterday, got home with my new kayak, got it into the garage. Nelson was on his way over. I said, Nelson, why don't you, because Nelson had gone out in the surf yesterday. He was fishing Southern Connecticut for some food. I think he got, what did he tell me he got? I think he got a small fluke, which he couldn't keep, but he did get a sea robin to keep and a couple of bluefish.
Nice.
So he got those. So he's ready to rock for some fish. And he had to stop at home. He came back to my house, and upon entering my house, he had a freshly burnt over garlicked bass pizza waiting for him because I cooked 3 pizzas, one for me, one for the wife, and then I fucking, held my nose, overloaded one with garlic, and burnt the shit out of it for Nelson because that's what he likes. I take care of my men's. Andy gets presents. Nelson gets presents. I better be getting some action here. Oh! Yeah. Once Nelson sucked down that smelly burnt pizza, we got on the road. We hit a lake up in the Berkshires that we never hit before. When I asked him about it, he said he'd scouted it for ice fishing. Very popular ice fishing spot. And I don't know if this lake hit the spot for me. It wasn't my strengths that were being played to. Nelson, however, it was a weedy shallow bite. And honestly, it was a small wreck lake that, man, there was a lot more wreck traffic on it, even for a holiday weekend than I thought for a lake of this size. and it's I wouldn't even say bowl shaped. It's like plate shaped. It's not very deep in the middle.
Yeah. And
there's like a ring of that red cabbage, whatever fucking weed that is, that comes out about 50 to 60 feet, well, to about, 10-foot depth. And it just stops. And I was constantly going around with the live scope, pointing it out in the middle of the lake just to see what I could see. I couldn't see anything. Basically, anything with fins and gills was in those weeds.
In the cabbage, yeah.
That led to a stick bait bite. Nelson, I guess, missed a big one, caught a little one, and then caught a couple decent ones later on with hollow body frogs.
Mm-hmm.
I got smashed, absolutely smashed, and then it got broken, and I didn't bring the spare tails, which pissed me off because I know better, on a June bug teckle frog.
Yep.
I got hammered. A little 14 and a half took out all of his aggression on this fucking frog, and it blew up. I was very happy. I thought about it. I don't think I've caught a fish on a frog in like 2 years, if not more. So that blew up. That was my day. I got a rock bass, and I mean, we stayed out late. We stayed out till 9:30 at night. Man, the stars in the mountains are something else.
They're amazing.
It was great.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah. Nelson did land an 18 on the way out on another frog, and I mean, just a great night. But hey, you try out a new lake. Some things happen. Now I know not to that. Maybe that place isn't going to be great. For summer fishing, maybe I hit it in the spring.
Yeah. But did that rock bass benefit you at all as far as the tournament goes?
We'll get to that, and yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, that was my week. I mean, new kayak, 3 fishing outings. I'm getting back into the swing of it. My break is in the past. I'm feeling a lot better mentally, feeling a lot better physically. Gonna round out 2023 the best I can, and we got our 200th episode in January, and fucking 2024 is a whole new ball game.
It's gonna be insane.
I'm very excited for it. Yeah,
it's gonna be insane. Yeah, with the live shows, all that, it's gonna be a wild ride. And the jig heads, we appreciate you guys being on board with this. We've got more and more jig heads seem to be joining every so often, which is awesome. So I love that. We should have some good stuff for you coming in the as far as some discounts, exclusive promo codes. Had a conversation this week with Chris Mellowship over at A-Bay Lure, and things are happening. Things are happening. Yep. Be ready. Be ready. Shit's going to go down. We're actually going to be doing a big giveaway. And this is more of an experience-based giveaway, I'm thinking. And we may be doing this a handful of different times with some different folks, bringing them in to partner with some cool ways to engage and get some, some folks to experience some of this really, really amazing shit. So as far as the actual hot topic for this week, as far as, what we're talking about here, our guest this week is a young man named Vinny. Vinny is great. He's an absolute hoot. I spoke with him on Saturday after a very filling breakfast at Rusty's. We had spoken about his his passion fishing and where he's at. That's coming up in segment 3. You guys aren't going to want to miss it. In just the tip, though, in segment 2, I kind of felt to keep it on theme. Maybe we'll talk about fishing with kids, tips that we have, all of us, because we all 3 have kids. We've fished with our kids. And I think for each of us, it's a little bit of a different situation, and I think that's going to lean into that. So in just the tip. But this week for our hot topic, there's something that I have noticed that's just, it's kind of driving me insane, to be perfectly honest. It happens every year, and it bothers me.
It's that time of year. Pumpkin spice is here. I can't wait to drink.
Yeah.
I can't wait to drink.
What I'm talking about here, guys, is I see this every year in so many different facets. I'm talking about fall. Does Bobby Roast Beef hate fall? Is that what he's... No! Bobby Roast Beef loves fall. It's wonderful. It's my favorite season to fish. But guess what?
It's not fucking fall yet.
It's not. It's September. School has started. Labor Day's here. Maybe that's the unofficial, and that's the key word, unofficial end of summer. But, we still have a couple more weeks of summer. In fact, this week it's going to be high in the 90s for a good chunk of it. So, I mean, you get that in our area, this huge bump. But Sean had made a mention on here that he thinks this goes even deeper than that. that it goes deeper in terms of as far as maybe it's industry driven. That's something to consider. Making people think of certain things, and this doesn't have to do just with fall, but with all the seasons. Now, I bring this up because this was last Monday. I was at work and I went to go order a beer, and I noticed that they had the Shipyard tap handle on, and I'm like, "Fuck, already? You guys are doing that shit already?" And they're like, "Yeah." They're like, "There's another bar in town that started with theirs, so once one goes, you got to follow suit." And I mean, I understand putting it in the stores now, but everybody, my wife loves to say in the first week of September,
It's sweater season.
and then she's out at an event wearing a cardigan, sweating her face off. And I'm like, are you comfortable? So chill out, guys. We still got a little bit more summer left to go. It'll get here. You can enjoy all that stuff that you want. That's fine, but it is not fall. In fact, what's the primary thing that you should be focusing on as far as your fishing goes for when those seasons change? It's not the calendar. It's the water temperatures.
Let me ask you a word association question.
Yep.
What word have we been drilled into our fucking heads by every magazine? And I know I'm getting old. I'm sorry. Magazine, website, post on social media for the past, my entire life. What word comes after the word fall?
Oh, are you like the fall bite?
In fishing. You don't know?
No. What? Because I can think of a few things.
Fall topwater. Fall topwater.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely
fall
one of them.
topwater.
Yeah.
Okay.
I knew I liked Chrissy.
I understand why that is. The issue is the fall topwater, to my understanding, is that it's not even fucking. It's not even a topwater thing. It's during the water turnover where the cold water goes to the top, but there's a little time of stratification where the water temperature is even everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to be a topwater thing, but you can catch fish throughout the entire water column. But fall topwater, got to have those fall blowups. Hey, it's spinnerbait season.
Yes, that's what I was talking about. That fall
springtime.
Bite. Yep.
Springtime. Oh boy, got to get those fucking red craws out there. Red craw, that's it. What? My water body doesn't have red craws. It's spring, throw the red craws.
Yep.
I feel as a child of the 90s, we grew up hating the establishment.
Oh, yeah, we did.
We grew up hating industry. And we grew up hating everything. Because everything hated us. So
and we're assholes. So, I mean, factor those things together. Yeah.
So when I hear something like that, a slogan that seems to be, hell-bent on selling something, I start asking why. Guess what? Red craw lures work year-round. And there's not a peak of success in the spring. Top water bite works all year, not just in the fall. All right? Like I've described. I've had days where the water is 40 degrees and I've gone to shallow water and run a top water lure and had some of the best days ever.
Yeah.
And it's consistent. It's not this only happened once. It's consistent. And that's in the spring top water. Well, it's spring. You got to throw red craw in deep water. Find riprap. The bodies of water I fish don't have a lot of riprap.
Yeah.
So guess what? What I'm getting at is there's a lot of slogans and there's a lot of you have to throw this shit at a certain time mentality.
Yeah.
Because of the season, because of the bite, because of this, that, or the other fucking thing. The only suggestion I have to offer is go out and read water yourself and document what you're doing. And these slogans will very quickly become just that, marketing slogans.
More background noise than anything else.
Go out and fish. Like Bobby, you caught that big fish.
Yep.
On a wacky rig Senko.
Yep. Yeah.
You'll never believe this. Those work year round.
No way.
I'm fucking not kidding. It's not just a summertime bait.
Wow.
Sorry to tell you that.
Wow. Mind blown.
That was more than your mind getting blown.
Yeah. Yeah.
I when you and I talked about this, about, it's fall, pumpkin spice, and immediately said, I was thinking about this yesterday. It was driving me kind of nuts because people force lures, people force techniques regularly because of a slogan, because of a marketing campaign. And they don't need to.
And oftentimes those, like, there may be an element of truth in that slogan, but it doesn't apply everywhere for everyone. And that's the biggest issue.
It is. And like I've said numerous times, and we all pretty much know this, the bass fishing industry is generally focused on the South.
Yeah.
So there's a whole lot of stuff going on there that just doesn't apply to the North. Or it does in a completely different way.
Yeah.
That shad bite, where is it up north?
Yeah.
I know there's a small breeding population of hickory shad that run up a river in Rhode Island every now and again. Is that the only place my shad techniques will work? And I'm not saying they won't. Like, you're gonna, a bait fish looks like a bait fish. If you're gonna grab a shad colored lure, like I use lures that are called shad, but I'm looking at their colors and saying, well, this looks more like a blueback herring.
Yeah.
And then you get a blueback herring labeled color, and it doesn't look anything. Here's one of the most notorious ones. If there's a yellow perch bite, like right now, when I cleaned my fish when I got home, all right. Guess what I found in one of them? Actually, I told you, right? Yeah, I think you and I had this conversation, Bobby.
Did you?
Well,
yeah, I don't think so.
All right, the first one I cut open had 2 rust-colored crawfish in it.
Really?
I don't know. It's fucking August. The water was 75 degrees.
Yeah.
Rust-colored, like orange and brown-colored crawfish, almost red.
Yeah.
All right, and they weren't super digested, so that was the color of the crawfish.
Yeah.
The next one, and this is going back to what I said earlier about the crawfish in this particular lake. The next one, stomach was distended, and you know what he had inside of him, and it was a male, no egg sac. A blue claw that was bigger than both the crawfish and the other one.
Oh, wow.
It was the claw itself was almost like 2.5 inches long. It was huge.
No kidding.
So that thing grabbed the claw off a crawfish and didn't get the rest of it. So that is an enormous crawfish in this body of water. And it was blue.
Yeah.
The third fish had nothing. And then the fourth had a 2-inch shiner, mostly digested. And then what I found has been schooling up in a couple of different lakes around here that I've fished, a 3-inch perch.
Oh, all right.
We're not getting a shad bite.
No.
But we have so many yellow perch that are breeding.
Yeah.
There are bait ball, and I was seeing them on both my live scope and I was seeing them on the live scope. I was seeing bait balls of fish, and I wasn't seeing anything other than yellow perch.
Yeah.
And one of the bodies I went to had smelt in it. And I didn't see any smelt balls. They're generally deeper anyways around the thermocline, but I was shallow and I was seeing thousands of 3-inch perch.
Yeah.
Now, normally I tend to throw perch in the spring because they're active first.
Yes.
You know what I mean? The bass are going shallow to warm up. What's active? The perch are breeding up north. Where this comes back around to what I was saying about lures is striking and Z-Man share a skirt. All right. I don't know if they're in league with each other. I don't know. I don't care. It's none of my business. But it's the same skirt. One company labels it bluegill and the other one labels it perch.
Yeah.
And you look at it and it is clearly a yellow perch.
Yeah.
Like there are no bluegills that I know of this color. But people will look at a label and say, "Oh, I don't want to fish with a perch colored lure. Or I don't want to fish with a bluegill colored lure." And they don't buy it and they don't look at it and like, well, that is exactly up north what these fish are killing. And it's one of the skirt colors that I use consistently year round. I don't know. Like, it comes down to, again, with me, go out, fish, write down what you're catching fish with, make your purchases off that, make your decisions throughout the type of the year. I'm sure I can look through my patterns throughout the years and say, well, I tend to catch more fish with a lipless crankbait in the spring. I tend to catch more fish with a frog in the summer. But there are instances where I don't. But again, I have that information. I can go through that. So there's my rant. It's not always fucking fall pumpkin spice season. just because the calendar changed or just because there was a commercial on TV or on fucking
Your
you saw something
favorite
on social
content
media.
creator said these are the baits you need to be throwing for fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't go out and look at what you're doing and what you're having success with, whether you keep a database or not, keep a log. I don't know what to tell you, but there's a lot of marketing that goes on that's very subtle that ends up with a lot of anglers out there wasting their time on things that aren't appropriate to use when you could just look around and read the water for yourself.
Yeah.
So there's my rant. Joe, what do you think about that? Because I kind of gave Bobby a preview the other day.
I will say that I sometimes I kind of go down the wormhole of like, you know, watching a lot of videos and trying a lot of the shit that, you know, they're telling me to do versus just kind of doing what my gut tells me to do.
It's hard not to if you're in the space of all that content and marketing. Right. Yeah, it's hard to.
So, but it's funny, Sean, you saying that you found those orange craws. That's what I was using. That's what I was catching all those fish on yesterday was the jig. I had a orange craw trailer on them. No so kidding. It's actually kind of funny that you say that. Huh. Yeah, it's I'm trying to, for me, like I'm obviously a little bit younger than you guys. So I you know, being a fucking millennial, I kind of, even though I'm almost 40, I kind of get into that whole like YouTube genre and TikTok and all that shit. And I'm trying to use it now as just like getting ideas and working off that to, you know, come up with my own idea and just kind of like branching off from it, if that makes sense. Like, you know, it like my tournament this past weekend, like that was just something that like my gut told me to do. It's nothing I watched anywhere, you know, nothing else was working. So I'm like, well, let me try this in this color with this one, and you know, end up working out. So yeah, I 100% agree with you, Sean. 100%.
You know, it's funny. Like sometimes that's exactly what it's all about. You just have to take a step back and like think about like, okay, so what are my options? What can I do? What makes the most sense? And sometimes you don't make the right call, you know, and it's there is a little voice that's in your head like, oh, you should do this because you just talked about it on the show, or, oh yeah, that's right. You know, this, everybody's got the buzz going about, you know, such and such a presentation, or you should try this. And that's all well and good. You can 100% do that. But if you're truly like, if you're going out to catch fish, you know, and that's your goal, you're just like, yep, I got to catch them, whether it's pre-fishing to get, you know, information for a tournament or an actual tournament, or, you know, you're doing like we're doing with the online multi-species stuff. Like sometimes it's best to just like take a step back, take a deep breath and analyze the situation and figure it out. I threw so many baits that went nowhere. Like I had first time I ever threw a Nico rig Christy craw. Because I was like, well, maybe, you know, if I just crawl this along the bottom, it'll get hammered, you know, and nope, nothing.
Yeah, it's, and the other thing, like it took me a minute to realize is our fishing up here is so different from what most of these people that you can go get hints and tips and tricks from, you know what I mean? So we're not in these like southern waters. It's just much different where we are. And so it's just like, you know, just like Sean says, it's all about just doing your homework.
Exactly.
You know, it's, and that's kind of that's more of the route. Cause I'll be honest, all these fucking tips and tricks I've gotten this year, guess how many fish they've caught?
Zero.
You know, so it's I do much better when I kind of just go with my gut, what's worked for me in the past, and I really got to get away from that shit.
Yeah, it's the name of the game, you know. It 100% is.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, I want to say every fall actually since we started the show, we touch on this. Like fall is not dictated by the calendar in terms of fishing. Like you got to look at your body of water. What does it get for sunlight? You know, obviously the standard is that, you know, we're getting less and less sunlight every day now, and it's a very apparent. Like when you're going for that early bite, and you're like, I could have slept another 30 minutes, you know,
Right.
something like that.
But in our fall fishing's a lot different than, again, a lot of people in the country, because sometimes our like summer, like late summer fishing is their fall fishing. You know what I mean? Just when it comes to like water temps and all that, especially this year, the water temps have been down this year.
Crazy.
So it's just, you know, we come fall fishing here is like, I guess as we see it is like true fall fishing where the temperatures are legitimately going down.
Yeah.
So can go down significantly, you know.
I think
by temperature, our fall fishing in the South is winter fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But you know, our winter, like that's where I make a shift is our winter fishing. For me, I don't feel like winter fishing up here. We don't have to get up early. I just feel the shift is later in the day when the water is at its peak temperature.
Yeah.
Is my favorite and primary bite, I think.
Yeah.
And then you go to a place like Oklahoma, and for whatever reason, every fucking day it's a goddamn noon bite, and I can't explain it.
Yeah.
So I like it's no matter what videos, no matter what media of any type we're all reading, there is no substitution for paying attention on the water when you're on it. None. There's none. And that's where writing down times, writing down fucking lures, all these things come into play because we're human and we all have fallible memories. Even if you're not getting into the jigglers like I am every now and again, you're going to have a fallible memory. You're going to forget something. And if you forget one thing, maybe forget two things, and all of a sudden you're missing out on a pattern that you've provided yourself the information for. You're just not writing it down. I didn't want to turn this into a rant on keep a fucking database.
Yeah. But it does play into the discussion 100%.
Dude, it's so ingrained in me at this point. And I look at every angler and say, you want to get better? What are you doing what are you doing? What are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? And no one can answer.
Yeah.
No one can give me a full answer and say, here's what I've done. Here's what I've not done. Well, I can't help you then because, you're not working with the full information. What the fuck?
Yeah.
I can make suggestions, but that's it.
But yeah, other than that, you got nothing for them.
Correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, enjoy your pumpkin spice lattes and your pumpkin themed beers and everything else, and go ahead and do that. But realize, hey, nits, get the data, that's what it gets down to. Get the data. I feel like Jay put it so eloquently with that. I think that's the cherry on top. One last thing before we take a break and we get into segment number 2. I had a piece of gear, one of my favorite pieces of gear that I've ever used, fail on me this last Thursday. On Friday. Failed me on Friday while I was out, just flying through bluegill and throwing them on the catch board. That piece of equipment you guys see that little retractable, it was a line cutter I bought a long time ago from a company called Sam's FX. And it's a small like that, like almost like a nail clipper style line cutter. And, the line cutter, it kicked the bucket. Eventually it started to dull. I replaced that with something, but I always kept that retractable line and I put it on a lanyard. So that way things that I needed near me, they were always just right there. I could just grab, whatever and use it. And I'd been using a small pair of, split ring pliers that have, like a set of braid shears built into them. And I love them. They're great. Well, the other day, Friday, I went to go take a bluegill, grab this jig head and give it a shake over the boat. And as I dropped and thank goodness this wasn't over the water, as I let go of the pliers like I do because it'll retract back to me, my pliers hit the bottom of the kayak. The cord had snapped on this one piece of equipment. So I was looking on Amazon. That's where I found it. And I found like a 3 or a 4 pack. And I'm like, oh, yeah, we're definitely going to put those aside and hang on to them. So I got more coming to me. But to that initial little pocket saver.
In the arms of the angel.
Let's pour a little bit out. We'll just pour a little bit out.
It's funny you should say that. You know what somebody just asked me about a couple days ago?
What's that, Sarah McLachlan?
No, am I still using carrot sticks? And I said,
Oh, no shit.
and you know what? It hurt. It hurt. I'm like, I loved my carrot stick spinning rod. I said the line guides were like nothing I've ever seen before. I'm very upset they don't make them that way anymore. So yeah, I'm gonna pour one out for that too.
Wow.
We do have one other thing, Bobby.
Oh,
We're not doing drums. Tourney time's in segment 1 now.
yeah. Okay, let's do it.
Yeah. I'll go quick. Anybody who's on there right now, you'll notice we had a similar problem in May that the leaderboard is not totaling. I actually sent an email this morning that should be resolved by the time this podcast airs. You can add up the leaderboard like I will right now for everybody. I know Fisher's still coming in, but as of 20 minutes ago when I totaled all this up, I'll do the top 4 because there's a 1, 2, 3, 4 4-way tie for 5th, and I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah.
So Tom Monahan is sitting in 4th with 4 points.
Oh, nice job, Tom.
Nice job, Tom. Ryan Breen, 6 points, sitting in 3rd. My man Nelson, 2nd place with 7 points. And I'm back, baby. I'm back. Sean the Fisherman, 9 points, 1st place. Now it's 9 points. That's probably going to change because it's the first week, and it's not. I don't think a 22-inch pike is going to fucking sit there forever. And my pickerel already got blown up, so it's all good. So there we are for the first week, not even the first half week, the first 4 days of Jigs and Bigs tournament for September. You have 4 days left to get in on it, folks. If you're still interested, jump in. Remember, all you have to do is go out and catch fish.
Yeah,
If
that's
you
it.
get a lunker, you get a lunker. But we've had people placing the money without lunkers.
100%.
And I did ask about the scoring change possibly for October. We will see what they say. Hopefully I'll have an answer this week. And maybe in October we give the new scoring method a try. We'll see how it goes.
I think we should.
Yep. But September, get out there, catch some fish, folks. It's not fall yet, no matter what fucking every commercial on TV and social media tells you.
Don't listen to
fall
Taylor
can-
Swift.
Fall can fuck off. Yep, exactly. And we'll get there eventually. But we're not there yet. It's still summer. The fish are biting. Get out. It's warm. Wear shorts and a t-shirt. Shirtless if you want. It's your business. And
Shortless if you want.
And do nice things for your friends. That's all I can say.
That's true. I like it. All right, guys, we're going to take a short break. We'll get back. We got just the tip for you. We got a slew of shit to discuss in the FTG segment. And in Bait of the Week this week, we are going to talk about our number 4 spots for our favorite baits that we've been using. One of these baits we've already heard about. But it's actually in my 4th spot right now. So we'll take a short break, guys. We'll be back with much more after this. Trust me, you don't want to go too far. Jigs and freaking Bigs. Hey, you. Yeah, you. The one with the impeccable taste in fishing podcasts. Bobby Roast Beef here with a little call to action for all Jigs and Bigs listeners. We're opening up our hotline to you. Now you can call us to sound off about almost anything at 413-324-8519. Want to submit someone for our FTG segment? Call us at 413-324-8519. Care to maybe suggest a topic for just the tip or bait of the week? Call us at 413-324-8519. Maybe you just want to give us or anyone else a little shout out on the show, or you want to suggest a guest for the beef seat. You guessed it. Call us at 413-324-8519. The Jigs and Bigs hotline is there for you to leave a message with us 24/7. Just call 413-324-8519. Also, you can check that number in the notes of this podcast. Jigs and Bigs wants to take a moment to say thank you to our partners for helping us continue to push the limits of our fishing adventures and bring you amazing long-form content. We're excited to offer Jigs and Bigs listeners a 15% off savings on your first installment of a month-to-month subscription to Dark Horse Tackle. Dark Horse Tackle provides a monthly supply of small batch, craft, and custom lures, allowing anglers to try some otherwise tough-to-discover baits. This is stuff you're not going to find just anywhere, and Dark Horse Tackle does the hard part for you. They track down these small companies and then test the baits to determine if they're good enough for the DHT community. Subscribe now at darkhorsetackle.com and use the promo code JIGSandBigs15 for your 15% off savings now. For all your premium kayak needs, we partner with Three Bells Outfitters. Located along Smith Cove in Niantic, Connecticut, Three Bells is your go-to location for kayaks and accessories by Hobie, Native, Bonafide, Jackson, Yak Attack, Naqua, Boondocks, Burley Pro, and much, much more. Financing options are available to upgrade your kayak fishing experience. White glove delivery service is also available. Visit threebellsoutfitters.com for more info, and don't forget to tell them that Jigs and Bigs sent you. When it comes to high-quality polarized sunglasses, we've partnered with Toredge. They provide stylish sunglasses in a variety of frames that are light and fit comfortably on your face. The polarization cuts glare and allows you to see the whole picture, helping you identify what's below the water's surface. They have a 60-day risk-free trial, a lifetime warranty, and free shipping. Plus, you can save yourself 10% off with the code JIGSandBigs10 at checkout. Visit Toredge.com to check out their selection and lens options. Again, we cannot thank our partners enough for their support. Please consider supporting them and supporting the show in the same process.
Bobby and Sean now have a special presentation for us all. They'd like to give everyone just the tip.
Well, all right, guys, here we are, just the tip for this week. And I figured we'd kind of keep this one topical because, you know, we have our guest this week is a very ambitious angler, a young man named Vinny, and had the great opportunity to talk with him a little bit. And I figured, I was like, man, you know, it would be so easy if somebody's kids were this crazy about fishing, where they just had the ambition to learn as much as they can and chase these species, and they were just really, really drawn to it. But you know what? As parents, it's not always that way. You get some kids that they're just not feeling it, you know, or maybe, you know, your style of fishing, like the way I grew up, my dad is very much a finesse angler and a live bait angler. And, you know, I'm all about finesse fishing. Love it. It doesn't irritate me at all to have to slow down or pick something apart meticulously. Instead, though, some kids, they just gotta, you know, cast and crank. Like they just have to, you know, chuck and wind. And, you know, it can be tough, but you want to keep their interests up high. Now, all of us have kids. All of us have fished with our kids in different capacities. I'm going to go ahead and start explaining, because I think I've talked a little bit about fishing with my kids and their interest in it. My oldest is now 19. So I've got the oldest of all the children, you know, that are here. My youngest is 13. My oldest was kind of interested in fishing when I kind of caught the bug early on, like in 2013, 2014. She wanted to go and fish. And I remember this one outing specifically, vividly. It was actually the day of the Boston Marathon bombing. It's the day that it was. So I'm not going to forget that. And working in the news business at that time, never going to forget that. But that morning, I took my daughter out fishing to a spot that I fished recently with my kayak, and a little river system. And she was so excited to go. And as we're, you know, driving down to this area to fish, we go past a playground, and she is immediately like, "Oh, can I just hang out up here while you fish? Is that because I'm fishing? Because you're doing it, you know?" And I was like, oh, God, this isn't going to work. So I took her to another spot where I grew up fishing. Massive disappointment. Third spot we went to was another place that I still fish today, same system anyway. And this girl, Chloe, she caught a boot. You hear people catching, you know, about catching boots like in cartoons. No. She legitimately caught a boot. So I have a picture, and I meant to use it actually for her graduation, but I was like, I'm not going to embarrass her that much. But yeah, and she caught a boot. I mean, great memories made. We had a good time, had lots of laughs. That was great. But, you know, she really didn't get the bug to fish. She didn't fish again for quite some time. And when she did finally fish again, it was one of these deals where she had come, actually now she can use a bait caster. But she just doesn't have the interest, you know? She's caught plenty of fish with me, like while I was out fishing this one spot in an area she likes to fish. And for a long time, I would bank fish, and my girls would just walk around town in this little college town up there because that's what they like to do. Or they would walk on the trail. And then this one time, Chloe fished with me there and caught a couple of actually pretty decent nibblers, you know, and she was delighted, would hold them and everything. My youngest daughter is a different animal. She was very excited to fish, saw how into it I was. And this is a little bit further on when I was doing a little bit more. And this is after I'd caught my first jig fish, and I was kind of like a little bit more dialed in as far as like knowing what I was doing. So I said, you know what? Yeah, I'll take you out. I bought her a combo, a spinning combo, not a kid's combo. I bought her like a 6'5" medium spinning combo, this Fluger setup, and she loves it. And I bought her some finesse jigs, and you know, put a little crawl trailer on there. And I remember like third or fourth cast that first day out, she hooked into a tank. For a kid her age, she was like 10, maybe 9. And she just hooked into this absolute tank, was delighted, wouldn't hold it, took pictures with her. She was so excited. But for her, she fished. She was done. She just that was it. I can't get her to come fishing with me, like for the life of me. She's just got other interests. It is what it is. What about you guys? What is your situation with your kids and fishing and everything else?
So with me, the number one thing I will say for anyone who plans to bring their kids fishing or has, patience is key.
Yep, 100%.
Patience is key. So for me, my kids just aren't really super into it. Like they'll go with me, but you know, they're done in an hour.
Yep.
And that's it. You know, it's they always want to use live bait. They rather sit there, watch a bobber than, you know, actually put in the work.
Fish. Yep.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
My youngest Emma, she's, you know, 4. She's a little girly girl. She likes going on the boat, not so much like the fishing part.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I gave her, she has a little rod on her own, little push button, and I'll just throw like a freaking little Ned rig or something on there, and she'll cast the shit out of it, and she has fun with that.
Mm-hmm.
But and then she'll sit back down and whatever, just chill out and color or whatever I bring on the boat that day.
Yep.
But it's a different generation.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's unfortunately, you know, kids just aren't into the outdoors. I've done everything I possibly could to the you know, and I'm not gonna I don't want to be that dad that forces them to do stuff that they don't want to do.
Yep.
Like I really want them to be into it. I you know, part of me wants to be like, no, you're gonna get yourself ass out here and you're gonna freaking cast this rod 200 times whether you like it or not. But yeah, it's just not the way I am. But yeah, for me, the one thing is, you know, patience. And Nelson, he said, don't bring your own gear. I have made that mistake. I had to buy them all. They do have their own spinning combos now because I realized letting them use my spinning combos was the worst idea ever, and had to change the line on all of them. But
Joe,
yeah.
I think he's getting at don't bring gear that you're going to use at all, whether it's yours or not. Just don't bring any gear and focus on them, and you're just acting as a mentor. So let them fish, not you. Yeah,
gotcha. Yeah, I'm also bad at that. I will say I'm bad at that. Like I'm out there, I'm like, well, I'll just fish too.
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's but yeah, so patience is key, and you know, don't force them. If they want to go, they want to go. If they don't, they don't. And that's just kind of how it is.
Now, how about you, Sean?
Nelson echoed it perfectly. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Don't bring your own gear. I had to learn that lesson the hard way. My oldest son love to fish for, sunfish off the dock in Minnesota.
Yep.
Never really translated to home. He didn't do that at home. And then my youngest, once or twice a year, we'll go out to the Cape. And now that we have the pedal kayaks, I'm looking more forward to it. We go out. We've got 2 small ponds. One he loves to hit. I don't think we've caught much there. And then there's another pond. Actually, the last time we were there was not last year, the year before. He caught like a 23-inch chain pickerel.
Oh, no shit.
And runs his mouth about it still. Yeah, he caught a really big pickerel. And
that's awesome.
I try to make it as fun as possible. Like, hey, let's stay here for, I know he's not going to do an 8-hour jaunt in one lake and cut a lake up. But if we do 2 hours at one place and then go grab a bite to eat, and then go 2 hours at another place and go grab a bite to eat or grab a soda and then go 2 hours to another place. Now I've got 3 ponds in that I've used the time to not only have fun with my son, but when I'm on the water, I'm doing my scouting.
Yeah, exactly.
I get to get a feel for that lake. Maybe I can go back there and spend 8-9 hours a day. I spend a day out there myself. But like we already talked about it this fall, I said, we have the 2 boats. Is there, if there's a day, let's take a day during a weekend. We'll go out, shoot out to Cape Cod, and we'll hit 3 ponds, and it'll be fun. And I with the new boat, I told him, I'm like, look, we have a tackle shop in our basement at this point, and it's stuff that I trust. I'm like, let's build you a tackle box for anywhere you can go, and you're gonna be able to catch fish. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's it. I mean, right now that's where I'm at. I had to learn, just like sounds like Joe is, just admitted he's doing the same thing with not bringing your own stuff and really reshifting the focus to the learning angler.
Let me share a story about when I first fished with my entire family, my wife and both my kids. I don't think I got a line in the water. So what happens a lot of time with folks is like, it sounds like a good idea. Like, oh, let's take Dad fishing on Father's Day. Let's go and that is the worst possible thing you can do. Like, if you've got a dad that's like, I love to fish, bringing him out on the day that every Yahoo is out there with their family, you know what I mean? Number one, you have that to deal with. So we had gone to Congamond. We went to the pier. And of course, everybody and their mother was there at the pier. Everybody. And this is after I had fished with Chloe that couple of times. So I had the expectation that, like, okay, I know that she can handle her own casting and retrieving and everything. We don't have to worry about it. My youngest, Delaney, had this rod combo. It was a small push-button reel. And the hooks, I thought, were ingenious. There was a bobber, right, that had a channel cut out in the bottom. And when the bobber was out of the water, it would fall and rest on the hook, and the hook tip would be buried on the inside of this bobber. So if she's whipping this thing around, she's not going to get a hook anywhere because the force of that bobber being at the end of the line is going to keep that hook lined up. But there was a small, I don't know if it was like an O-ring or something. You could adjust the height, and then when the line hit the water, the hook and the bait would slide down, and that bobber would stay there and then hit whatever weight it was. So you had everything that you needed. Nobody caught anything. It was just super frustrating. It was ridiculous. And I'm like, no, this just isn't going to work. So the idea of not taking your gear, because it's not about you. When you go out fishing, like your family suggests doing that, say like, hey, why don't we go out for breakfast and then you guys go do your thing and I'll go fishing. That way you don't have to feel obligated to spend the time on the water. Same thing with my wife. She was fishing and it was just a mess. It was constantly like, oh, I got to fix, you got a bunch of line twists. let me fix this. Let me do such and such. And I was just constant maintenance for all of them, from ages of 30 something to my, 3-year-old daughter. I was like, this is crazy. So I highly recommend, leaving the gear at home and make it less about your experience and more about them, and your experience is getting them interested in fishing. Now, with that said, I want to talk bait presentations because all kids are different. I think Joe actually nailed it. He was like, most of my kids, they would rather just watch a bobber. I would expect most kids to be so bored by doing that, you know, not wanting to watch a bobber. Instead, I think a lot of kids would rather the chuck and wind. And for a long time, I would recommend to folks, I would say, like, your best bet as far as a technique for fishing, whether you're catching small bass or you're catching, you know, you're targeting bluegill or whatever it is a drop shot of cricket, you know? It's a great setup. It'll keep the hook off the bottom, so they won't necessarily be getting snagged up. But it's light and delicate enough, and when those bluegill or the small bass hit that hook with that cricket on there, and they're gonna feel it and be able to get fish onto the bank, or on the boat if you're on a boat. That's one thing. The other thing is, if you've got a kid that just needs to just chuck and wind. Like, they're just the action. They just want to keep casting. Throw a beetle spin on for these kids. They're small and subtle enough, but they're easily fished. You know, just teach them. Yeah, you just do a slow retrieve. You know, with most spinning combos, and definitely with most, you know, spin cast combos, the retrieval is pretty slow on them anyway. So, you know, they can kind of move it at a pretty good pace, and it's that bait is going to get bit. It's a great way to go ahead and go for it. What do we got?
Another one I always recommend too is, as long as they can handle the treble hooks, is get a size 9 floating Rapala.
Yeah, that's another one too.
That is the one that is going to catch every fish on the planet.
Yep.
Get it in silver or get it in gold and go to town.
Let them have
that's
it.
what I learned on, and you know,
and that's exactly it too. It's like, that's a really good example, Sean. Like you said, like if you can, they can handle the treble hooks. That's a great way to kind of get, like, you know, when they understand that, oh, hey, yeah, there's sharp stuff at the end of this line. You have to be careful because you could snag something you don't want to snag, or somebody. This is a great way to go ahead and do it. I want to jump through some of these comments here because we got, you know, Nelson, obviously we talked on making the focus about them and leaving your gear behind. Chrissy Fishing jumps in here and says, kids also start to like something more when they're successful at it. Hot dogs and beetle spins let them catch a bunch of whatever. Kids like catching, not fishing until they're older. That's 100% true, because if you're catching fish, regardless of how big they are or anything, you know, your interest is going to stay in it. And the longer that's the case, then awesome. And it's a whole lot easier to teach a kid that, like, wow, we really had a great day today. Look at all those fish that we caught. Know that not every day is going to be like that, versus, well, I guess they just weren't biting today, kiddo. You know, that's a really, really, like, different conversation. Chrissy Fishing says, my 10-year-old watches YouTube videos and learns techniques for bass now, but started with bluegills on hot dogs. I love that. That's awesome.
And I started on really before even the floating Rapalas. Before we moved to that place, to the house by the river where I was, you know, part of the neighborhood that really taught me fishing. You know, my dad would take us out with push button rods, bobber, and corn.
Oh yeah, corn
on a small hook, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and that's the thing, like, you know, you gotta look at the kids that you're taking with you and figure out, like, what's their interest going to be. So maybe you put together, you know, a couple of chuck and wind style baits, like some beetle spins or inline spinners or something like that. The nice thing is about beetle spin is a single hook. You know, you know, lots of the rooster tails and the meps and everything with a treble on the end. Some people get really, really, you know, crazy about that kind of stuff. Thinking like, oh, my kid's going to hook everybody. Nobody's going to be able to see. They're all going to get hooks in the eyes. Jesus, what are you doing?
I've got a lifelong friend our age, still doesn't want to use treble hooks, just prefers to smoke a ton of weed and go out and throw a Senko around. That's all he does. All he does. He throws a Senko. And he gets high, and that's it.
You know,
it works.
and that's the other thing too. It's like you can use this as an opportunity to keep their interest with the gear. You know, start them with like a 3600 box and say, so this is the lure we're going to start with. Here's a couple to get you started. Okay, cool. So you caught a fish here. Let's introduce something else. This is a shaky head. You know, drag it on the bottom. Okay, fantastic. This is how you fish a drop shot. This is a Hellamite. It's going to change your life. And like, I think that for a lot of kids, artificial baits are really, artificial baits, I think for kids are interesting because to kids, they look at them as like toys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're just like, oh, wow, there's a little fish. Oh, this crawl looks so cool. You know, and it's like, if you can use that to your advantage, if that's their interest, lean into it, you know? And that was definitely an area of interest for me. I used to be all about, like, I would go with my dad to the R&R Sportsman in Belchertown, and I would be in there, and I'm like, oh, this looks awesome, Dad, doesn't it? And he's like, yeah, fish don't bite that. Let's just get some night crawlers. And I'm like, all right, I get it, you know? Or my dad's big one was mealworms. Mealworms were the big seller with my dad. Yeah, always throwing a mealworm. But again, he focused mainly on catching like stalker trout for, you know, in a lot of these spots. So it was just one of those things. But yeah, if you lean in and you know, you're like, hey, so we'll try. Oh, your interest is in the baits. Well, let's start with this one and we'll figure out how to make it work, you know? And, you know, maybe that's something like an inline spinner. And then they're like, holy crap, you know, you get a fish on a treble hook bait. That's a really, really fast lesson in respecting those hooks, because when you see how they're in there, you know, it's a big deal. Kids love catching rock bass, especially rock bass, because they're psycho.
Yeah.
You know, they really are. They're a great fight. They can get pretty big. And, you know, that's the whole thing. I think so for us, you know, look at what your kid was most interested, lean into that, leave your gear behind the first handful of trips if you really need to. And then once they start to get that skill set where they're like, oh, I can cast my reel and I don't have to have you untangle all these, you know, wind knots or, you know, anything like that. Like, you know, they'll get it. You'll make it happen. Anybody got anything else I want to throw in here? You feeling lighter, Joe?
You're on a roll this morning, dude. You're on top of it.
Dude, it fucks me all up when we do it in the morning.
I know. It's a mess. It is a mess. With that said, it's time to talk about, we just had a holiday weekend, folks, and you know what that means.
Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy.
I get to sit this one out because my experience this holiday weekend has been Saturday I was on the bank. Friday I think I beat all of the wreck traffic out there, and then I didn't fish on Sunday at all. I should have. I really should have. I'd at least have something to even if it was a shit day, I sure as hell would have a story. But you guys go ahead. You talk about your education.
I'm going to go first today. I get to go first. Now, I want to deliver. It's not even an honorable mention. I probably should have mentioned this in segment one. This was more funny than annoying or disturbing. When the Loaded Potato and I were out on the lake fishing, there was a beautiful, like, really, I mean, this I don't know, craft fucking vintage canoe with two gentlemen in it. I want to note, both of them wearing PFDs. Thank you, guys.
Lifestyle.
Not making fun of you, just don't know what the fuck was going on, because I told you about this.
Oh, yeah.
All my years on the water, I have never seen anything like this. These two gentlemen were doing some fitness exercises in the canoe.
They were fitting.
That sounds horrible. These two guys were, yeah. These two guys were getting in shape in the canoe.
They were shaping something.
Yeah, they were.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
The whole time they were on the water, the Potato and I were having a laugh because they were paddling in unison, and one of them was calling cadence loudly. So I was going to ask you to play that. They went back and forth on this body of water, and I think it was fourth or eighth paddle, you heard, hut, hut, hut. It went
That's
on
amazing, dude.
for an hour. They didn't say anything else to each other. This is not a fuck that guy for these people. This is not a honorable mention. Yeah, exactly. I don't know what the fuck I saw with these two guys. I've never seen anything like that before. I don't know.
Muskrat love.
Yeah. Now let's get on to the FTGs. Yesterday, holiday weekend, going out to was it yesterday? No, I'm sorry. It was Friday. Friday, starting off the long holiday weekend. I started it off with 3 FTG candidates. 3.
Wow.
It began in the parking lot. At this lake, there are a row of parking spots right up against the grass leading down to the lake. And then in the middle of the parking lot, there's a lane of parking spots. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of room between the ends of these two parking spots. So there's a lane in between them. And it's tough for even a mid-sized car to get through. So when I pull up my full-size truck with a kayak hanging off the end of it into a parking spot, and I'm at the end of the row. I am at the end of the row so that anybody who wanted to turn into that lane between the two rows of parking spots would say, oh, this guy's unloading his kayak and there's not a lot of room here. Maybe I should wait or go around. Yeah, I wish that happened because I was unloading the kayak. I had the kayak on the ground, and that's an excellent mustache. Yes, Bobby, that is very similar to the woman that did this to me. As I had the kayak on the ground, now there is even less room between these two lanes, these two rows. Car turns right in there, and as loud as I can, I say, what the fuck? Because she missed my kayak by about a foot or less.
Oh.
And I just yell, what the fuck? Which, unfortunately, there was a picnic table on the grassy area and a gentleman sitting there waiting for his boat to pull in so he could go for a little ride. And he turned around, snapped his head, and I'm like, sorry, dude, not you. It's this idiot. And I point at the car. Well, this was so important for this person to get to that parking spot, even though she could have gotten there another way, that she stayed there an entire 6 minutes and then left. And I'm like, I can't fucking believe this. I wasn't even done unloading my boat. So fuck that gal right there for shitty parking lot etiquette. Then I get on the water, and then this is just the given. There was a football field and a half between me and the shore. I was out in the middle of the lake fishing a weed bed. Football field and a half.
Really?
Guy in a fucking wrecked kayak passed 20 feet to my right, and I was casting in that direction. So I put my rod across my lap and just folded my hands and stared at him as he went by. Because I don't say anything to that. It's just obviously fucking ignorant or stupid.
It just, yeah.
So what can you do to that? So I just stare at him, glare at him, and eventually he'll leave. The third one was a wreck boat that did the same thing, coming the other way, and at that point I was exasperated. So my Friday, while I had a fun day with pike and smallmouth, the FTGs were right there with them.
Oh yeah,
It was a numbers day. It was a numbers day.
Yeah, it was a numbers day in every which way. That's shitty. Yeah, it's the worst when they're paddlers. You know what I mean? Because you're like, come on, you should know better than this shit.
There was fucking more than 400 feet between me and the shore, and this guy went 20 feet to my right, where I was casting right across. Like
idiots.
Piece of shit. So fuck him. Definitely fuck him. Fuck the lady in the parking lot. And then fuck the wreck boat assholes. Fuck them all.
Shit. How about
Joe?
Now,
Joe had some videos for us.
Yeah, Joe had some videos for us, so I know this is like next level.
Yeah. So the unfortunate thing about the place that we had, the Barton Cove that we had the tournament, was there's a lot of wreck traffic, and to the point where I was like, when I was going to pick up my boat, I was probably in a line of like 15 people. So the first guy, I think I sent you guys a picture. The first guy's literally like changing like oil filters and doing shit to his boat, like right in the line. You know, and then telling people to just go around them, but there's really not enough room to go around them. So like, just park in a parking spot and do that shit. Don't do it in the line. The other one, as it was the big video I sent you guys. I'm gonna have to figure out how I like, because it's kind of long, but I'll edit it to the point where I can put it on Instagram or something. I guess. I don't know if this is a lack of like etiquette, just a lack of skill, just people being nervous, but man, these people just do not know how to back up a trailer. It's like literally, it's all these people that look like it's the first time they've ever brought a boat anywhere, or done anything with a boat. I mean, that one video I sent you, it took a solid like 5-6 minutes for this guy to get the boat into the water. Like
Yeah.
I sent that first video to you guys. I was like, okay, he's finally got it. And then he pulls all the way back out and start a new video and be like, oh, guys, he still doesn't have it. Like,
Oh
we're
my
still
God.
working on this. And this is and the problem with him was this guy, it was a larger boat. It was not a small boat. And this is a 2-lane boat ramp, but he's taken up both lanes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, finally, some guy was just like, fuck it, I'm squeezing in. Like, he was just so frustrated. So then that probably made this guy even more nervous. You know what I mean? So it's just, I guess it's just kind of like, if you're going to go out and do, I'm not going to give any shit to wreck boaters. I get it. That's what you like. Fishing's what I like.
Sure.
We have to share the waters, but go out and fucking practice what terrifies me is these guys are so bad at like just backing these things in or maneuvering these things on the around the boat ramp. Like, how the fuck are they on the roads?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a little bit more scary, but
Yeah, it really is.
So this guy took a solid like 6 minutes to back this trailer in, and you could tell he was nervous as hell. His vehicle looked like it was way underpowered for I think it was like an older Dodge Durango. He was like pulling this big ass boat with. So it's nothing that we haven't seen or heard or anything like that. So it's not like a new FTG, but it's just wild. The skill levels or the nervousness at the boat ramps and just lack of being able to fucking back your boat in especially during a holiday weekend.
I would say it's amazing the amount of fuckery. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's fuckery.
Well,
Yeah.
it's so funny because I was reminded when I saw this video of this guy attempting multiple times to back his boat down the ramp. I was reminded of a reel that I had recently seen on Instagram where there's a group of guys and they're like, yep, we're going to go and post up and watch some folks at the boat ramp. And what they would do is they would sit on either side of the ramp out of the way with chairs, coolers, a grill. And as people were trying to back in, they're just like, or conversely, based on whatever was going on. And these wreck boaters were like coming unhinged. Like during this, they were
like
just
gonna call the cops and stuff.
What are you doing? And they're like, go ahead. What are we doing? We're hanging out and we're recreating, you know? And it's just like, oh my God, it's crazy. Cause like, I'm not the greatest when it comes to backing up my trailer. My trailer is small. So the problem is it's hard to see. You know what I mean? So it's tricky, but I'm not taking up nearly that amount of time in order to put my boat, on the ramp and then take, get in and out of there as quickly as possible. But it's like, especially those dudes with the big boats, you've got no reason. You can see it. You know what I mean? You don't have to know the trailer at all. You can see it. So it's crazy. I saw that dude and I was like, wow. And it reminded me, I was like, should we do that? That's maybe what we should have done this weekend, how we spent Labor Day. Just a couple of chairs, some umbrellas, a cooler.
Hey, that sounds like it's right up the alley for you and your wife. That's judging.
It is.
You now have a summer
judging.
You now have a summer judging activity.
Oh my God. That is brilliant.
Bobby, you know what we do?
What's that?
I'll go with you.
Yeah.
And as we're doing it, we'll tell them like, hey, for $10, I'll do it for you.
Oh, there you go. That's not a bad idea. I wonder.
I was going to say, I'm surprised nobody jumped in any trucks and said, let me do it, asshole.
Yeah.
Oh, it was close. It was close, but it's
that's crazy.
The problem is there's so many. It's like everybody. There's so many of them. You know what I mean? And it's those people that own these boats, but only go out Memorial Day weekend and Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
And maybe 4th of July. And that's it. Other than that, they're fucking don't touch those boats.
So you know what? It's weird. He was the big boat that you had the video of, and I'm pretty sure that's the one where you're like, oh, yep, his wife has something to say and she's waving her arms.
Yep.
Usually you would see that at the beginning of the year because it's people who own property on the lakes and they'll drop their boat in at the beginning of the year and pull it out at the end of the year. And also they're kind of smart about it. They're like, yeah, I'm going to do that during the week. You know what I mean? And it's not a problem. I don't know. It's the holiday fucking crowd. It's just,
Yep.
you know,
Yeah.
you know, it's just like our discussion in segment 1. On the holidays, we are programmed to go out on the water if we're rec boaters that have no experience. How about don't? How about maybe try it a weekend that it's not busy, asshole?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, where you're not dealing with the amount of traffic and the potential snafus that can happen when you get that much inexperienced, folks with limited exposure. Yeah. Fuck.
One thing I will say that I was really impressed with and I thought was real awesome was obviously these people aren't going out. There's all those islands, right? So these people go and they party on the islands. And obviously they're not drinking sodas and water. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But one thing I respected was I saw them all out there on Saturday. And when I launched and was doing the run on Sunday, they were all there with tents up on the island. Like they all just like, there's all tents on every single island. They
Cut
just
their fuel
slept
tanks.
there.
Cut the fuel lines and just fucking leave them there forever. That's what we're gonna do. We'll
just let them float. Just cut their lines, let them float,
just be like,
float down the river. I did respect the fact that they didn't try to fucking do that shit when they're tying one on or whatever.
Oh yeah,
just slept there on the island. So I did respect that. But they're still dinks.
Yep.
That's all I gotta say.
They are.
Fuck them. This segment is for them. Fuck them.
I love it. My God. So we're going to talk favorite baits. Buckle up.
Jigs and Bigs. Bait of the week.
Favorite baits, top 5 favorite presentations, what you've been throwing recently, given, whatever we've been doing here. And last week we talked about our 5th spot. Last week I put a finesse jig / Ned in there. I think, Sean, you said a stick bait, right?
Yeah, I use it for all sorts of shit. Well, but I don't not all sorts of shit. I either use it weightless or as a Ned rig.
And Joe, you went with a crank last week, didn't you? Nice.
I did.
So you're going to see some shifting of, some of these are going to show up in different positions on different folks' lists, and that's what's going to be interesting. So I'm going to start with mine. My number 4 on this list is a stick bait. It can just be fished so many different ways. It's super versatile. I love it when I'm fishing grass, but I need something subtle. I can rig it weedless on a Texas rig weightless. That's generally my favorite presentation. And this week, just on Saturday, I was basically reacquainted with how many big fish I have caught on a stick bait. I fished in a variety of different ways when I landed that 19 on a wacky rig, which I very rarely fish wacky. Very, very rarely. But I happened to just give it a go and think, let's go ahead and do it. And, I thought about it. I was like, yeah, and that's ironic. It's my number 4 on this list. So yeah, for me, it is a stick bait. Probably, I would have to say, for the most part, brand does not really matter for me. I love the Yamamoto stuff. If I've got it, I go through them pretty quick. I like the Bass Pro Stickos. I think for the money, they're fantastic. I also like the fact that they're a little bit longer. Like I generally am throwing a 5-inch for the most part. I like that the Stickos are a little bit longer. They're like 5 3/8 inches.
And the other thing with those Stickos too that I love, their color selection is enormous.
Yeah, it's great. It's really, really great.
Huge.
And for colors, I'm a green pumpkin guy. I think there's if you need to choose one and you're like, I can only choose one, a green pumpkin black flake stick bait is killer almost all the time. But I like various black and blue applications. And I also fish sometimes in like really clear water, more like transparent colors, like smoke, where it's not so, it doesn't stick out so much. It's more of like the flutter. And that's pretty much me with a stick bait, use it weedless or throw it wacky on occasion. Maybe I'll start doing that more often.
Yeah.
What about you, boys?
I'll jump in next here. I used a broad term, the jerk bait.
Gotcha.
Right? At this point, I'm generally down to about 2 sizes, either a 90 or a 110.
Yep.
But when I say jerkbait, I don't mean suspending. I don't mean sinking. All of them.
Yeah.
This is where I grouped everything together, and including floating, which, I keep preaching on the show. Floating jerkbaits are one of the deadliest baits in the history of fishing, but I'm still the only person I know that throws one, like regularly.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking with a rattle in it. I'm talking a floating balsa.
Silent. Yeah.
Original floating Rapala. I only use size 13s because that's really, it's 130 millimeters, not 110.
Yep.
Size 11's 110. The 13 I find draws so many strikes when you have, the water looks like glass. There's no wind. A subtle bite's there. You don't need a big top water bite. Those fish are being cautious, but they will go up to the surface for something like that. As far as suspending jerk baits, I use a number of models, generally in a couple different patterns, and really like suspending jerk baits have come into my life and started being successful in the past, 5 years.
Yep.
But lifelong, I learned on the floating Rapala. I mentioned that earlier. For my money, I don't think there's a better shallow water bait.
Would you include a soft jerkbait in there as well?
No, I should have said hard
jerkbait. Yeah.
Yeah. I
wasn't sure if you were
plastic
going
stuff.
that broad.
Yeah, no. I'm talking hard baits with treble hooks. Should have made that clear. Sorry. But yeah, floating Rapalas. So what have I been using? 6 cents jerkbaits are great. Occasionally mega bass. I know some of the blanks that Abe uses are of different varieties. Lucky Craft has been good to me. A couple of other smaller brands too. So yeah, I've really adapted well, I think, and started to use suspending jerkbaits a lot more. And especially under tougher conditions, I think they do a pretty good job with. And that can go as far as cold water and bad conditions in the summer, as well as in the beginning and end of the year. But yeah, give me a floating Rapala and a spinning rod with 10-pound mono on there. I'm going to do some damage, and it's going to be fun. Yeah. I was throwing one around last night. I didn't get any hits on it, but again, new lake. I figured I'd give it a shot. The water was like glass. So, yeah, there you go. Jerkbaits.
All right. What do we got, Joe?
All right, ready?
Hit me with some funny shit.
I'm going to go with Ned Rig, number 4.
Ned Rig, number 4. Fair enough.
And here's the reason. I don't love using them all the it's not that I'm not a huge fan of them. Usually when I'm using them, it's because the bite is just so tough.
Yeah, you throw it when you have to.
Right. Yep. I throw them when I absolutely have to, and I know I'm going to catch something on them. For me, I've really crossed over recently to using an EWG Ned hook. So, that weedless profile. I still will use a standard open hook on occasion. I tend to deeper water. I'll go up to, when I'm doing deep water, I'll use up to like half ounce. Even I have some 5/8 ounce Neds. Obviously I go down to usually the 1/16, 1/8 is kind of what I use, on a typical day to day. But when it comes to color and shit like that, usually I obviously use black. I don't really care. You can get the green pumpkin, whatever.
What profiles are you using?
For baits?
Yep.
That's what I'm getting. Jeez, Sean.
I don't know. You're talking about colors and
let me
fucking
get
weights?
to it. No. I'm talking color of the actual Ned weight. It's
you're talking about color of the actual jig. Okay.
Yep. So black or green pumpkin I will use. When it comes to brand, typically Bog Hog Baits usually makes them for me. They I can ask them for any weight. They can typically do the heavy ones, or I'll go with I've been using a lot of from Woo Tungsten. I'm sorry, not Woo Tungsten. I was using them, but X Zone's making a tungsten one now.
Oh, really?
That I've liked a lot. Yep. So profiles. When it comes to profiles, my favorite the last season and a half has been the Fresh Baits Hellamite. I've done really well with that. My second would probably be the Ned Zone from X Zone. I really like that. I really like that bait.
That's got like a flat, like tail, like
it's kind of got that like ball, like that, almost like that ball.
Oh, all right.
And yeah. I really like that bait. I've had a lot of luck. For colors, I've actually been liking. The reason why I like fresh baits, the Hellamite, so much is especially when it's clear, sunny out, and the bite's tough. They have that, they're infused with that, UV stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So they tend to get a few more bites. I really like the white with the chartreuse tail as well as the green pumpkin with the chartreuse tail.
Yep.
I did actually catch a couple fish on the new clear one that they have.
The salt
like the
and pepper?
invisible.
Yep.
Yeah. Like so I did well with that last week. So Hellamite, Ned Zone are my typical go-tos for the profile. I don't have a shit ton of different Ned baits because those are really the only two I use. So that's I think that's pretty much it for my Ned baits.
That's pretty awesome, man. I mean, I love throwing a Ned rig, and I love it especially because and the same thing will qualify for a stick bait. I use the same thing. I do sometimes where it's like, all right, I got to dial these fish in. Sometimes I'll choose a soft plastic just so I can play the color game. And lots of times it'll be a Ned or a drop shot, and I'll utilize that wide array of colors that I've got from fresh baits for the Hellamite, and I'll switch things out according. Other times it's just based on, water color or clarity or something like that. But it's a whole lot easier to just swap out a plastic and try something new than it is to have to cut something off for a totally different presentation. So no, I'm definitely down with that. Definitely agree. Ned rig's a great choice. Jig heads, if you guys want to jump in on this and share your top 5 favorite baits, let's just go ahead and say you guys can go ahead and share those top 5 favorite baits. Call the hotline. Call the Jigs and Bigs hotline and leave a message there so that we can throw some of your info here, because now we're coming up to about the middle of our lists. You guys kind of have an idea of what we're going for and the things that we're talking about. This way you kind of get a little bit involved and can engage with us and fill us in. So that hotline number, just if you're not aware, in case you missed a spot that's been running, you can call us at 413-324-8519 and leave a message right there. 413-324-8519. Give us a call on the Jigs and Bigs hotline. Let us know your top 5 favorite baits. And I think that about does it for segment number 2, guys. We are going to take a really, really quick break. We'll get back. And we have, joining us with us, we've got Vinny, 12-year-old aspiring professional angler. You're not going to want to miss this. We got more coming up after that, and then we're going to circle back around and have a little conversation and wrap things up. Don't go too far, guys. Much more Jigs and Bigs coming up right after this. Hey guys, Bobby Roast Beef here from Jigs and Bigs. If there's one thing I can't stand spending money on, it's on something that's not versatile, something that I can't get a lot of use out of. I want to talk to you about Frost Buddy. What Frost Buddy is it's one of those can coolers. I've seen these before. In fact, I have some that are limited to only fitting one specific size of can, like a standard 12-ounce can. I stumbled onto Frost Buddy, and I was blown away with it. So versatile. Fits standard cans, tall cans, slim cans, and even 12-ounce bottles. And the magic is the insert fits all of these items in various stages within the insert. And when you take that out, you can fit a full 16-ounce tall boy can. In fact, it even doubles down on being versatile with the coffee lid. And on my recent trip to Chickamauga, I had a field day with this thing. I was throwing beer cans in it. I'd have coffee in the morning. On the drive, I was throwing in all different sizes of cans for different canned coffee products to keep me awake on the long drive back. The thing was amazing. So I recommend you check out Frost Buddy. If you're in the market for either a travel cup for your coffee or a can cooler at all, either one of those, check it out. For the money, you cannot go wrong. What I've done is this. In the show notes for this podcast you're listening to right now, if you look there, you'll find a link to Frost Buddy. where you can get yours. And not only can you go and get your Frost Buddy there, but you can help out the show as well. Go and visit that link in the show notes to this podcast. Check out a Frost Buddy. Tons of colors, tons of patterns, all kinds of great stuff. And it's a great spot to put your Jigs and Bigs sticker too. Take it from me, Bobby Roast Beef. You're going to get the most versatility out of this one product, probably out of anything you're ever going to buy, especially for anything that you're drinking. Frost Buddy. It works for me. I'm a happy guy. Jigs and Bigs is your favorite fishing podcast, right? Why not show the world how much you love the show while directly supporting us? We have men's and ladies' shirts, hoodies, and a variety of hats. We even have a waterproof outdoor Bluetooth speaker so you can listen to your favorite podcast while out on the water if you like. Check out jigsandbigs.com/shop to visit the store and gear yourself up. If you really can't get enough of this show, consider becoming a jighead and joining our Patreon. It's a subscription that gives you exclusive access to recording sessions that allow you to engage with us as we record the show. We also have some exclusive content there just for our jigheads and even have some special promo codes. Space is limited, so join now at jigsandbigs.com. Finally, if you're local to our area in Western Massachusetts, consider checking out the Western Mass Fishing Report, posted weekly at northeastwildwoman.com. We have amazing contributors providing great content and info for local conditions and what's been going on and working recently. Jigs and Bigs, so much more than just two lightly roasted hippies trapped in the 90s arguing on the internet about fishing. Guys, Bobby Roast Beef here. Could you imagine that? We actually have a guest this week, which is awesome. And this guest came to us. Well, actually, let me start with this. This is so far the youngest guest we have ever had on the show here at Jigs and Bigs. So, I mean, for what that's worth, we'll go ahead and take it. But, all of us that host Jigs and Bigs, myself, Sean the Fisherman, and who's that guy? Oh, yeah, Farmer Brown there, Joe. He, all three of us, we're dads, so we get this stuff. We love to see young people passionate about fishing, and that's what we have here with us today. We've got Vinny with us. Vinny is a young aspiring, I would say probably aspiring to be a pro angler at this point. Some of the things I've heard. Let's kind of go through the backstory here, how all this had kind of come together. Nelson, friend of the show, the People's Chorizo, he had sent a text to myself and Sean and said, it was one of the pictures, Vinny, of one of your catches. And he was like, you guys have to get this kid on this show. He is freaking awesome. He's all personality. You got to have him on the show. I was like, let's do it. Let's go ahead and set it up. And you, Vinny, I got to give you congratulations, man, because I sent Nelson the link to we're going to go behind the beef curtain here and explain how the booking process works on Jigs and Bigs. When I reach out to somebody, I send out a link so that they can schedule based on my typical availability. And Vinny nailed a spot within hours of getting that link. He had it together. That is infinitely better than some of the other guests that we've actually managed to have on this show, where we jump through hoops to get them on. So I appreciate that, man. Vinny, let's go ahead and talk. You're 13, right?
I'm 12, turning 13 November 29th.
Oh, very nice. So you'll be even younger. So you are how long have you been fishing now?
Few years, actually. Yeah.
Very nice. What was it that got you interested in it?
So I first started fishing with my friend Mason. Mm-hmm. And the first time we started, we caught a pretty big fish.
Nice.
And ever since then, I've just been in love. I started to learn how to use bait casters.
Oh, really? Good for you. That's pretty awesome, man. Because I was in my 30s when I started learning how to use a bait caster. What are you using for a setup for your bait caster setup?
So I started off with an Okuma. Then I got Shimano DC.
Oh, you're using a DC reel. Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Good for you. Now,
and for my what?
Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
And for my birthday, I might get the Shimano Corrado DC.
Dude, the Corrado is my favorite reel. I don't use DC reels, but that's just a preference thing. I know folks like them.
Yeah.
They are pretty freaking sweet. I will say this though, that Corrado, it just when you have you ever held one before?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think.
Just by picking it up, you can. It feels like a really nice watch. You know, you can feel the quality in it.
Yeah.
Just the way the gears work together, everything about it. It's probably my favorite line of reel. I think it's just an absolute workhorse. That's awesome. So you started out doing, you got into fishing organically, just your friends getting you into it, which is unbelievable. And you're throwing bait casters, you're getting it, making it happen. Let's talk like your favorite bait presentations. What do you like to throw the best?
I love Cincos.
Oh, Senkos are awesome. Oh, my God. I got to show you something. So I caught a tank this morning. I was out fishing earlier this morning. Yeah. I mean, an absolute just a tank on a Senko, on a wacky rig.
Holy cow.
Yeah. I don't throw wacky rig Senkos too often. Usually I throw like a Texas rig.
That's the one I caught.
That's awesome, man. You can't beat a stick bait. You cannot beat a stick worm. Do you have a favorite color?
So it's red and orange, and it has like sparkles in it.
Oh, okay.
And I just got another Cinco I'm going to try out.
Nice. That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm a sucker for green pumpkin, and I'm a sucker for black and blue.
Oh, pumpkins are really good. Anything orange or red is just amazing.
Yep. I love it. I freaking love it, man. Let's talk about like your PB. Like, have you? So when you catch a big fish, are you taking measurements?
Yeah. So I think
you.
the fish that I just caught is 20 inches.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah, 19 and a half to 20 inches, I think.
Nice. Good job. Good job.
I don't have a weigh because I got one, and then I went fishing at the ocean. And I left it on the beach.
Oh,
I think on accident.
Man, that happens. That's like professional. Yeah, that's like professional level angler right there because everybody forgets stuff all over the place.
Yeah.
I've lost big bags of soft plastics because I didn't strap them down to my kayak when I was driving away. They've just gone flying, and somebody got a lot of really nice plastics, a lot of nice Kytex and stuff. So what else? Like, so you like throwing Senkos? What else are some of your other favorite techniques?
So, swim baits I want to start trying to use because I haven't really gotten to those.
Yep.
I'm trying to do a drop shot because I want to target smallmouth.
Love it. Love it. Drop shot fishing is great. Finesse fishing in general, I can't say enough good about. Like, get that flexibility to be able to downsize and also upsize, to give them something different. That's awesome. Now, are you into watching any of the fishing content creators or anything, or are you just just love it? Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about that. Oh, you like Kicking Their Bass TV?
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I've seen his stuff before. He's got some pretty good stuff. He catches some pretty big fish too.
Yeah, he caught a tank. I was just watching him this morning with my buddy.
Yeah.
We're cleaning out my basin and making a fishing spot.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Good for you, man. That's great. If I can tell you, like, I think the fact that you're measuring your fish right now says a lot for a young man your age. Like, you want to know that information when you catch big fish. And I know Sean the Fisherman would not allow me to not mention this, but do yourself a favor and grab a small notebook, or even if if you have a phone and you want to use your phone, create a note in there and document all the catches and the weather and all the information that you can have, and then enter that into some type of a database so that you can, look back on it, because being so young, you've got a really good opportunity to figure out what baits are performing really well. Start that off and let it go 3 or 4 years before you even look at it. Then go back and look at it, and you'll see the trends pop out to you. You'll see what's going on.
Smart.
It really is. Yeah, it'll take your fishing to that next level, and especially, where you're going to appreciate it the most is when you go to buy tackle. So let's say, you get your hands on a Bass Pro gift card or something like that, and you're like, this is burning a hole in my pocket. I got to go and, I got to gear up for next spring. This way, what's working and what's just kind of a trend that might not be sticking around. So, no, that's awesome, man. So let's talk about, like, every single angler that's out there has two stories. Okay, so they have one story that they're super proud about. You know what I mean? Like a story where, let's say you met somebody at school and they said to you, "Oh, you like to fish." What is that go-to story that you're going to tell them?
So you want me to say the story?
Yeah, tell me the whole story, all the details.
Okay, so it was a fish I just caught, the big one.
Yep.
And so we were fishing off the shore, and we're just fishing, and I'm just catching kibbers to maybe try and fish with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I look over, and my friend goes, "Ow!" I was like, "Here, I just got stung by a bee." I'm like, "Are you all right?"
Huh.
And he's like, "Yeah, I'm okay." And I look around, and just continue fishing. He's like, "Ow, ow, ow!" There's a whole swarm of mud wasps around him.
Oh no, that's no good.
So I bike up to the runner of the lake, and she comes down and looks at it, and she's like, "There's a hole, and there's a bunch of mud wasps." She says, "I don't want you guys fishing here, so if you want, you can come in our canoe and go fishing."
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I go down her canoe, and we're fishing, and my friend gets skunked. I got a few bites, and then we just go to this one spot. I hear a big plop under the lily pads.
Yep.
So I cast a Cinco under there.
Yep. Oh,
And
yeah.
I just let it sink, and I jig it twice, and boom, I was just reeling it in, and it felt like I was on a stick, like a big log.
Oh, yeah.
It was a fighter too.
That's awesome.
And
That's
then
awesome. And that was that last fish that you caught, that big one?
Yeah.
Awesome, dude. That is huge. That is unbelievable. And you know, it's funny. I was just out today with my buddy, and I caught that one big one. He caught 5, but they were all dinks. They were all dinks. He caught 5.
Yeah.
And the smallest fish of the day, he hooked up on right before we left. And he said, well, I forget what it bit. It might have been a wacky rig, honestly. It might have been
that's
a Senko.
what I use.
Yeah. It might have been a wacky rig Senko. And this fish hit so hard. He set the hook like he was swinging for the fences. And he fought this fish like crazy. And he gets the fish to the bank, picks it up, and it's probably 10.5 inches on a good day. That's it. The dinkiest of dinkiest dinks ever. And he looks at me dead in the face and he was like, "I swear to you, up and down, this fish felt like it was a 3-pounder when it hit." I was like, sometimes that happens, man. You catch them out there and they're huge, and then as they get closer, they start to shrink. I don't know what happens. It's some kind of a magical thing, but yeah, sometimes it's like that. Sometimes the hardest hits come from the smallest fish, you know?
One time I was fishing, and I just set the hook. I'm like, "Holy cow, this has to be a 5-pounder."
Yep.
And I'm reeling it in, and it's like pulling my kayak and stuff, and I pull it up, and it's like barely 11 inches.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
was like, "What?"
They're just aggressive. Some of them are just savages. When they hit a bait, they go for it. And then other times you'll get an absolute giant that will hit you like a freight train, and you're just like, "Holy cow, this is crazy." So I mean, it can go either way, but man, that is nuts. Now, what is the biggest like epic fail? Like every fisherman has one, that story that they tell that's kind of like, what is your biggest epic fail when you were out on the water?
I hate to talk about this one. So I was fishing in this little stream with the orange and red Cinco.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just jigging it and casting. And all of a sudden, boom, I get exploded on the wacky rig. And
nice.
I reeling it in. And it's like, you have to go straight down to get your fish. It's like on a ledge. I tell my buddy to hold the rod to go down and get it. And the rod snaps.
Oh, my God.
And it was probably going to be my biggest fish to this day after I caught that big one.
That's the worst.
I know, it was terrible.
Everybody's been there. You know, I haven't had a rod snap on a fish yet. I hope someday I do, because that's a great story. But I recently this year, I hooked into an absolute tank on a swim jig. And this is a good lesson because I got this. There was a big laydown that came out a good ways from the bank, and this is one of those situations where it was a big fish, and it literally took the rod right out of my hands. I had to juggle to get it back, set the hook, and I had this fish pegged. Like that hook was buried. He wasn't getting away. However, he did come up to the boat, and as I saw him, he went broadside, and this was a huge fish. This was definitely bigger than this could have been my new PB. Could have been my new PB, potentially. He went broadside. I got a good look at him. And then I noticed there was another big fish. And I've heard this before, that big fish hang out together because they can't eat each other. They're the same size, you know? So they like to hang out together. So this fish came up. There was another big one looking right at me, just suspended. And I go to grab the net. And as I do, this fish digs down again. And my line just snapped.
Oh.
It was just before the knot, and I went and I checked the line, and it was all nicked up because it had been going in and out of brush piles and over logs and over laydowns and all this other stuff, and it just gotten beaten up, and I never retied, and I had to learn the hard way. That was not fun. You know, that's probably my biggest epic fail now, but I think everybody's got one of those stories. Let's talk. We usually have this conversation on Jigs and Bigs. We always talk about food a little bit. Because, you know, whether you're out with your friends and you have like a really, really good day, or it's terrible and you kind of want to just go and drown your sorrows and, you know, something. Sometimes it's, you know, like today we were celebrating that big fish. My buddy and I went and had breakfast, you know, went out somewhere. Other times it's just chips and a soda. What's your go-to item to either celebrate with or drown your sorrows?
So, celebrate with, me and my buddy will either order a pizza while we're fishing, get delivery,
That's next level.
or we'll just go, or if we don't catch anything, get skunked, we'll just go home, sit on the couch, watch fishing videos, and drink water.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Chips, yeah.
There you go, man. I love it. Well, Vinny, this was absolutely awesome, man. We are going to send you a jig kit from Jigs and Bigs, and a Jigs and Bigs sticker as well. Yeah, absolutely, man. I think it's awesome. Young folks are as passionate as you are about fishing. I think that's really, really awesome. I wish you the best of luck. Also, you should check out. We do an online tournament where it's multi-species. It's like a scavenger hunt. You know, so you go, you catch a trout, you measure it, you know, you need a specific board. But if that's something you're interested in, take a look and talk to Nelson about it. He can get you all set up on all the other, get some information from him. You can win yourself some prizes. Even if you don't win in the tournament and land in the money, we do raffles and giveaways and stuff all the time. We give away baits from like Fresh Baits. We give away battery stuff from Naqua, all kinds of cool stuff to kind of make your next fishing trip that much better. But congratulations, man. I love the fact that you're out there getting it, and you're a young guy just catching some tanks, and I appreciate that, man. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, you have yourself a good one, all right? Take care. Keep getting on them, all right?
Thank you.
All right, Vinny. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's right. That's right. I think going on record that we can say that Vinny, yes, absolutely the youngest guest to be on Jigs and Bigs, which is pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. So, great young guy. He's got a big future fishing, loves his Senkos, and hopefully he can catch a couple of bigs on that Jigs and Bigs jig kit that I'm going to send his way. So I gotta touch base with Nelson and get him that in a Jigs and Bigs sticker. But man, what a wild show. Just an absolutely amazing show this week. Thanks to all of our jig heads for jumping in on this last minute, early morning Labor Day recording session. You guys are absolutely amazing. Also, big shout out to everybody that chimed in. We were talking about fishing with kids and our Just the Tip segment. That's huge. You got to get the kids out there, and you got to play toward the type of kid that you're bringing out on the water and what their interests are. I think that's about going to do us. Do we have anything else that we got to talk about here? I know obviously we're in September now. The September scavenger hunt tournament series is on, and you still have a few days to be able to go ahead and join us. So if you're listening to this and it's the week that it dropped, yeah, by all means, before Friday. Actually, I think you even have on Friday, but before the weekend, make sure you join the scavenger hunt tournament, guys. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. We've got great prizes up for everybody. I am hoping that in the coming weeks, speaking of prizes, I can start talking about some of the prizes that we'll be giving away for the Columbus, Ohio Fishing Expo live recording that's happening on Saturday, February the 10th. So if you're in and around the Columbus, Ohio area, you're thinking about maybe going to the expo, I highly recommend that you do, because it leans heavily fishing, and there's all kinds of good stuff. You're going to have an opportunity to get some great deals from Dark Horse, as well as obviously the other vendors that will be there. But you could also sit down with me in the beef seat at the Dark Horse booth. But our live show is happening over at Oldfields, and we highly recommend you come check it out. It'll be a good time. And ticket information will be coming soon. The ticket is essentially your entry for the giveaways. Think of these as door prizes, something like that. And we may, depending on how ticket sales go, we may open things up so that some winners who aren't able to be there are able to win online. So it could be pretty interesting. We might stream the show. Who knows? Who even knows, guys? As far as what's going on for the rest of this month, that about does it as far as I'm concerned. Do you guys have anything you want to throw in here?
No, I got nothing.
They got nothing, guys. So with all that said, we will see everybody in about 7 days for more Jigs and Bigs goodness. Coming up on your favorite long-form fishing podcast platform. Oh, there is one thing I wanted to talk about that I thought of. Our good friends at Dark Horse Tackle recently did a live stream with Armando over at Bass, Kayak, and Beers. And they were also joined by Andrew Hayes of Tackle Talk. And the live was great. Most of the times, both Josh and Zach will let us know when they're going to do some type of a live stream. And most of the time that they're doing these, it's weekday evening. So I'm almost never able to chime in and see anything. And I would love to comment on all this stuff. And as luck would have it, on Thursday when they did this live, they were late enough where I got out of work and was able to catch the second half of this, and it was really, really awesome. And it was also, I will say this, a big compliment that I got to hear Andrew Hayes say, "I want Bobby's voice from Jigs and Bigs." that was thank you very much. That was awesome. One other thing about Andrew Hayes, I did reach out to Andrew about joining us as a guest at that show in Columbus. He's not sure that he's going to be available for that show, but I would love to make that happen. That would be freaking amazing. And I also reached out to a local Ohio bait company, a big staple for that part of the country, about joining us to be a live guest at the episode. I'm hoping to hear back from them soon. I got to follow up this week, but things are happening. Things are happening. I love it. I love it. Folks, catch some damn fish. Join the scavenger hunt on Fishing Chaos. Just download Fishing Chaos and search Jigs and Bigs. You'll find it. Enter, and remember, you do need a catch board, so be aware of that. Read the frickin' rules, folks. And as you're catching these fish, regardless if you're in the tournament or not, and you're posting fish pics, tag us in your picks. We want to know what you guys are catching. One of these days, I'm going to do an entire show segment where I just give shout outs based on giants. I'm going to go through all the tagged photos and shout out everybody who's on there. Maybe it'll be like a Christmas thing, like a look back. Ooh, that might be a good end of year show. Mm-hmm. That could be pretty cool. We'll see who's been getting on them, but appreciate you guys. We have the best listeners everywhere. We absolutely appreciate everything that you guys are doing to keep this show, running and functional. And catch some fish, guys. It ain't fall yet. Don't wrap it up just yet, guys. It's we still got a little bit left in the tank. We'll see you guys. Have yourselves a good one. Like we always say each and every week,
it's an ass smoke some grass.